Hello! Welcome to another episode of the Gaming Memories Podcast, where I, Cade Call, your host, aka Roboclip, the Blessed Beatmaker. Actually, I'm going to change that name. I really never liked that producer name. I have been making new tunes. Haven't figured out if I'm going to release them under the podcast or another artist name, but they're dark, they're dirty, they're filthy, they're electronic, and they are all inspired by obscure video game references characters. The first track I'm working on is called Peshmerga, and for those who've played the greatest JRPG of all time, Suikoden 2. He's also in Suikoden 1 and I think 4 as well. 4 or 5. But he's this mysterious dark knight who doesn't give a fuck about anything other than getting vengeance on his brother Uber. You don't really know where he got his power from, where he comes from, where he's going. He just joins the party because he thinks he can run into Uber by joining you. And that's really all you know about him, but he fucks everyone up in Suikoden 2. He has the highest strength stat in the entire game. And he's this like mysterious dark knight with the power of vengeance. Great backdrop for a dirty, filthy tune. I'm working on that shit with my brother who's doing vocals. I'm very excited to release that. I haven't figured out the name I'm going to release it under, but I will be promoting that music on the podcast because it's all video game themed. We're doing a lot of stuff around Bloodborne, both very big fans of Bloodborne, Dark Souls. Cannot wait for Elden Ring to come out, but as commissioned by the gaming gods themselves, Miyamoto the Father, Kojima the Son, and Carmack the Holy Ghost, I was instructed to restore the One True Video Game podcast simply by interviewing creative and interesting people about their favorite games growing up. That's a joke. I'm not really a prophet, but don't tell anybody that. And if you do believe, go ahead and send me your money and your women because you'll be blessed. Isn't that how that shit works? Anyway, the point being, I like to get to know people by talking about video games. It's actually really simple. I just interview people that I'm interested in and ask them about video games, and I have found that it's really fun. And I have great conversations, and I enjoy them, so the hope is you will enjoy them too. And today, we have something creative and interesting. We have Retro Revi! His video game collection is fucking bananas! I've had a few collectors on the podcast. They're all dope as fuck. What I really like about Retro Revi, other than his beautiful man beard, which you'll see, because this will be the first episode of the new video format. He's got a beautiful man beard, nice and thick and burly. He has a big collection, not the biggest collection you've ever seen, but it is all functional at any given moment, meaning I think he has like 16 or 20 something different Nintendo 64s. He has like all the different colors and variations of 64s that were released, controllers, all that stuff. It's all hooked up at any given time. He has a couple different TVs in his game room, computer monitor, a CRTV, a big modern TV, and through some wizardry of cable management and switchers and boxes and upscalers and all that jazz, it's all hooked up, meaning at any point you can grab any game for any console and put it on any TV in his room and play it. And I thought that was really cool because a lot of collectors, they have a collection, but it's not necessarily functional. They really actually just have like maybe a Retron hooked up or something. And that makes total sense. I only emulate because it's just ease of use is so awesome. But Retro Revi goes balls to the walls. His room is immaculate. It's not just the games, it's the decorations, it's the figurines, it's the posters, it's the blockbuster signs, it's the lighting, it's just all of it. And at any given moment, you can play any game. You want to play Smash Brothers 64 on the lime green 64 with the clear controller? Boom. Pop it in, flip a couple switches, boom, ready to go. I just thought that was really cool. It turns out he's a badass. Go figure. Everyone with pretty much collecting habits I have find that I get along really, really well with. So, yeah, Retro Revi, check him out. He's also Be Kind Rewind on Instagram, TikTok, Retro Revi. I'll put all the applicable links in the podcast description. As far as what's going on, updates on the podcast with me real quick. Still working on the YouTube channel. Still haven't uploaded like the Final Fantasy shit that I've been talking about forever. Waiting on a few things to get finalized, but that's all coming down the pipe. I have not forgot about it. I have not forgot about the podcast. It's been a while since I put a episode up. This will be the first one in like 2 months. I got COVID for a little bit, but I'm still gaming, still making hella videos, still focusing on the TikTok because mainly the TikTok is the only thing that's growing, and the TikTok growth is driving the podcast growth, which gives me more value to offer guests because the only thing I really have to offer them other than my stunning good looks and impeccable intelligence which is all a lie, is exposure. So the bigger the TikTok gets, the bigger the podcast gets, the more I have to offer guests, and the easier it's going to be to get more interesting guests for you guys, the listeners. So that's the plan. I've been focusing a lot on TikTok videos. They are a bitch and a half to produce and make, but it is working. So that is why the podcast is taking a little bit of a back seat temporarily, because TikTok is working, and ultimately that's better for the podcast. I am playing God of War on PC right now. All I'll say is the PC port is fucking immaculate. It's one of the better PC ports of a Sony first-party exclusive, much better than the Horizon Zero Dawn and the Days Gone port. It has all like a plethora of options. My favorite being you can totally customize the HUD. And I hate HUDs because they distract you. And so you can create the contextual HUD that only shows up when you need it. Get rid of all the extra shit, because most of the battle stuff, there are in-game cues. You don't need indicators. And I've been playing the game essentially in immersive mode, which is no HUD. And it's awesome. Be posting some footage of that. I'll be definitely playing some more Dark Souls Remastered Tester. I'm going through the whole game playing as Solaire with Halo guns and murdering every NPC because I want to watch the world burn. Elden Ring is coming, so there might be no videos and no podcasts for who knows how long, because Elden Ring is important. Other than that, Retro Revi, you know the drill. Check him out. Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, all of his links in the podcast description. And as usual, remember to spread the good news of the Gaming Memories Gospel. By doing so, the gaming gods will rain down blessings from heaven in such great degree there shall be no room to receive them. This is my prophetic promise from the gaming gods. If you like, share, and comment and help the podcast in any way, I promise you gaming blessings. Maybe you'll get that next platinum trophy a little bit easier. I have no idea. Maybe you'll actually be able to get a PS5 if you've been trying to get one. Maybe you'll be able to get a GPU. This shit's hard to get. There'll be some sort of blessing by supporting the podcast, is my prophetic promise. And there is no way that promise would ever be hollow, because reasons. Just believe me. Love you all. I say these things in the name of Miyamoto the Father, Kojima the Son, and Carmack the Holy Ghost. Amen. And enjoy the show.
My grandfather was actually the one that got me into like big in the gaming. New game came out, I couldn't afford it. Super Nintendo, bam, right on the desk. What the hell? Super Nintendo?
Hell yeah, Gramps. Hell yeah.
Respect.
Fuck yeah.
Poppy, I love you.
Damn.
You're right. You can grow, man. You can be a hateful little asshole, and then, you learn and you accept your mistakes and just grow from it.
Yeah. And you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to make bad ones. Like I've practiced, some people use the term radical honesty, meaning if someone asks you, like, you just say, like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done, like the worst mistake I've ever done, or whatever. And I've been very open, like I'm very open about smoking weed. Like people will be like, you have kids and you smoke weed? Yeah, all the time. That's it. I found that it's divisive, but people end up respecting you because at least they know where you stand. At least they know who you are. And that puts them at ease. Even if they don't like some aspects of you, everyone's like, they know who you are. I do it because I think it makes life simpler, easier. It's like, I work really hard so I can be lazy and so things can go smooth, because I like when things are smooth and chill. And it's just like, oh, if I just, like when I was a kid, I found if I got straight A's, my parents wouldn't pay attention to what I was doing, because they're like, oh, he can't be up to any shenanigans. He's got straight A's. So just get the straight A's and then you're fucking free, yo. You can go chase whatever girl you want. You can go hang out with your homies.
Yeah.
Just get the A, like a little bit of work. And then you have, like, it's actually less work. I don't even know why I'm bringing this up. I'm so high and you just got me thinking about all sorts of shit.
Were you an A student growing up? You were an A student, weren't you?
Yeah.
You a smart motherfucker. I was a horrible student. I mean, I had a good, like, rep with the teachers. I wasn't like a teacher's pet, anything like that. Yeah, I was horrible. I was getting like C's and D's. I barely made out of high school.
That's because you realize it is arbitrary. I think some kids realize that this is just bullshit.
It is.
Yes.
It is. Yeah, 100.
So
yeah, agree.
A lot of those kids are the smartest kids because they're like, I'm not going to waste my time with this bullshit.
I was like watching Vanilla Sky and shit when I was in high school. Garden State.
I have never seen that movie, and everyone talks about it.
It's the most beautiful movie. It's one of my. Listen, I'm biased. This is one of my favorites. definitely like number 2 or 3 on my list of being the best movies of all time. But I know you're into music. Have you ever heard of the band Cigar Rose? They're Icelandic band.
Yes.
They're amazing.
Yes. For those who don't know, they're like this mainly ambient, like some of them has beats, but like mainly really ambient, like really unique sound, like super unique. For example, I watched a concert of theirs that was done in like an abandoned nuclear submarine, and it was just like this crazy reverb. And you should definitely check them out. They're when you want to like sit back and have an experience and chill. They're not. If you're going to work out, if you're thinking about pumping some weights, do not go listen to Cigar Rose. But if you want to chill, highly recommend it.
You'll be on the stairs crying. So beautiful. I'm going to quit my job as soon as I'm done with this workout.
Ooh, if you want to feel like looking at like some beautiful nature scene, like the majestic nature, maybe Cigar Rose would be. They kind of evoke that same. That's a good way to put it. Like a feeling of awe. Like, beauty.
It is worthy enough. And this is some big words coming from me. It is worthy enough to turn down the music of Skyrim. I love the music. I listen to music every single day of Skyrim and listen to Cigar Rose. Take that over the precedent of the music of Skyrim. Oh, yeah.
Dude, I'm so glad you brought this up. So I had this habit that I don't think I've discussed with anybody on the podcast yet, and I'm thinking about doing a series of videos, soundtracks you can basically replace video games with that are maybe better. And I have like a series of combos that I'm already into, like for example, a super random game, Onimusha 4 on PlayStation 2. That's the best Onimusha. All of you fucking haters, it's the best Onimusha by far.
I'm a huge Onimusha fan, and I will concur with that. Huge, massive.
Yes, it's not even like kind of the best. It is the best of the series. To me, like I don't even know how it's not an argument. Like it's like have you actually played? I'll just say, have you played? Did you beat Dawn of Dreams? Did you play it? Mm-hmm. Did you really play it? And you think it's not the best one? Did you really play? Okay, and then a lot of times they just didn't play it. I'll pressure them. They just didn't play it. I'm like, I knew it, bitch.
While you're in a conversation of this, you're like wrapping your hands up, like ready to fight them.
Because it's so good, and no one talks about that game. It's nobody does. It's like so good.
I'm looking at my Onimusha collection right now.
But there's a random UK dub artist. Like I don't even know if he's big. A friend of a friend knew him or something. I think it was a timing, but his name's Vaughn, Vaun. It's like Burial, like UK garage, like super down, deep reverb. And for some reason, he has a 5-song EP that I can listen to on repeat and just put in hours on Onimusha 4. For some reason, that album, I think it's 7 or 8 tracks, that album and Onimusha 4 go together like peanut butter and jelly. And I want to do a series of, treats. Like if you want to replay this game, pair it with this soundtrack. So I want to hear your suggestions, because you were also saying, this crazy asshole, by the way, saying he likes to listen to Silent Hill while talking. And if anyone's played, I just recently did a video on Silent Hill and just re-listened to some of the soundtrack. One, it's really good.
Absolutely.
It's really, I was surprised.
If you want something like you just woke up, if you're not a morning person like me, you just want something that kind of like coast through the, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, doing your business, put on clothes. Silent Hill ambient extended music's 8 hours long, right? It's the most beautiful, relaxing thing. And you'd be thinking some spiritual shit, like how am I going to conquer today?
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2, the save room music.
Ooh,
beautiful.
That's true. Actually, all the save rooms are pretty good. Now, I'm trying to remember, is it the same jingle in all the games, or it's like slightly changed?
It's slightly changed. Resident Evil 2 is going to stand out to you, though. I think you're going to compare all of them. Resident Evil 2. We had this debate. Yeah, we had this debate with my crew, and Ironhide X19, he's my cousin. He's the same age as you. He's well profound in the world of gaming. We had this argument, and we came to the agreement that Resident Evil 2 was the much superior.
Now, did you reference the Resident Evil 2 remake, the new one, or are you talking Resident Evil 2 OG?
The OG.
OG.
Not to knock the remaster. No, remake is a remake.
The remake. It's a full-on remake.
Yeah. Not to knock it. Beautiful game. I haven't I haven't finished it yet.
Neither did I. Dude, you want to know why I didn't finish it? Mr. X is too much stress.
It
was too much stress. It got to a point where I didn't, but there's this middle ground where apparently he's really easy. He's actually not that smart. I would see some videos. I'm like, oh God, I'm stupid. I could have figured this out. But I didn't see it through because it was just like, this is not fun. I'm not having fun. I'm just stressed.
I'm getting into like speedrunners now, like on Twitch. I'm like watching them. And there's so many great ones.
And do you just feel dumber than shit when you watch speedrunners?
I do.
Every time I watch one, I'm like, what?
That's an option? How the hell? How did you break 8 zombies in a hallway? That's an option? Jesus. We're getting old, man. We're getting old. I'm just blaming it on that.
I had this kid on Garrett. His name's Garrett. His username is Garrett.
World record. What's the game he plays?
Sledstorm.
Yeah.
And just watching I watched a bunch of his videos afterwards and like went through his whole YouTube channel. It's like, what the hell? Gawrit.
I always pronounce his name wrong.
He actually just hit me up. He's like, I'm going to stream Sledstorm. I'm going to try some new shit. I'm going to hang out one of his streams. But I watched a whole grundle of his videos and I played that game quite a bit for the video. I probably put in like quite a bit for an old game, like a couple hours. I saw his clips and that same thing. Like, how is that even possible? And then how did you like figure that out in the first place? Like, what were you even doing?
He picked his level that a lot of speedrunners avoid. It's like one we get to do like tricks and stuff. From what I remember, he did a level where it's like you got to do a lot of tricks, and a lot of like speedrunners avoid that because just like how do you even speedrun that? And he did it, and so he's a world record holder of that, right?
Open Mountain Championship is the one he was most proud of. I think that's like the story mode of the game. He was like ahead by 1 or 2 seconds from number 2, and he seemed to be the most proud of that one. And I think there's a couple other records he held.
And he was pretty sick into Halo 3.
Yeah, he was way into Halo 3.
Yeah.
I bet he's fucking good.
And yeah, I mean, the kid got talent. I mean, he's like our age, right? But the man has talent. Props to the speedrunners. I could never do it, but respect. You know, it's a game that I absolutely love that I actually do speedrun. I think I'm going to jump into it back when I do return to streaming is Ghosts and Goblins.
The NES or Super Nintendo?
Yeah, so the NES.
The NES.
Yeah, Ghouls and Ghosts and Ghosts and Goblins. Ghosts and Goblins is my baby. I
think I've tinkered on all of them, but they are notorious for being like the Dark Souls before Dark Souls. Very difficult. I did do a video on the Super Nintendo version, and I just got through the first level. That was actually quite frustrating. So, had you heard of 3D Sen? The emulator 3D Sen?
3D Sen sounds so familiar. You got to refresh my memory.
The reason I bring it up, I just saw Ghosts and Goblins, or Ghouls and Goblins, whatever one is the NES one, running on 3D Sen. 3D Sen is an emulator that's on Steam. It's like $12.
Yeah.
And it takes NES games and makes them 3D, like on the fly. I don't know what wizardry they're using, but I just was like, they update it so they can't do every game. And then they release, I believe they use the terminology profiles, which are like instructions specific for each game to make it look good with the technology.
It's compatible with VR, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I believe it is. Maybe not every game, but anyway, I saw they opened it up to the community where the community can start making their own custom profiles. And I saw a video today of someone made a Ghouls and Ghosts or Ghosts and Goblins for the NES, and it looked pretty good. So I just saw, like, I was watching a video of that game today. It's dope, and it looks really good in 3D. And I remember thinking, even take the 3D effect out, it looked pretty good for an NES game. I liked the style, and I almost prefer it over the Super Nintendo, which everyone usually likes that one the most.
Yeah, what is up with that? Is it maybe because it does look different?
It's more legendary for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, I always thought Ghosts and Goblins were. I know it now that the Ghouls and Ghosts did better in Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo.
It sold more on Genesis?
I'm not sure where it sold the most. From when I bring up the name of the game, people always talk about PSP and Sega Genesis. They never mentioned about the Super Nintendo, even though the Super Nintendo is a godly
I might be
console.
getting something wrong, because is it Ghouls and Ghosts or Ghosts and Goblins, and are they separate? I might be fucking this up.
They are the same franchise, but different names. So there's Ghosts and Goblins, which is on the NES, and Ghouls and Ghosts on the Super Nintendo, the Sega Genesis, and the PSP.
Maybe it's a Japanese or American thing, because I see Ghosts and Goblins Super Nintendo. That looks like the game I remember, but I also see Super Ghouls and Ghosts.
Super Ghouls and Ghosts, yes. Yeah.
Which also looks like the game I'm thinking about.
Yeah, and they're the same. So the first level, it maps out the same. Ghosts and Goblins maps out the same as Super Ghouls and Ghosts. You know, the infamous cutscene with the devil taking the knight's girl and flying off.
Yeah. I did play the random connection to this game, Demon's Quest on Game Boy, which is you play the bad guy, the demon guy, and it's like an RPG. And there's one on the Super Nintendo as well, a sequel, I believe.
I own that. I have never played it. There's so many games. My backlog is insane.
Yeah. By the way, we should have just got into this is Retro Revi, an hour in. Hello.
Welcome to the everybody? How's everybody doing? Who the hell's Retro Revi?
And the reason why we're kind of like already jumped back in is we actually recorded an entire podcast like a year ago. And I fucked it up and lost it. This silly goose thought that I didn't like it and lied to him, which is crazy.
Chat, don't believe him.
I've lost two. He sent me this nice 4K crisp video, and I was going to do video podcast since then. And I keep putting it off because, the work in post is so much more with video. And I just keep telling myself, I keep finding excuses to putting it off. But Retro Revi, the reason we're like already just going into it, we've already had a long conversation a year ago, and we kind of already knew each other. But the reason I found you on Instagram is because your gaming collection, speaking of backlog, your retro gaming collection, like a lot of people have big collections. And I don't know what item per item, if yours would be abnormally big, but the way yours is actually set up with everything working.
That's right.
Everything is like hooked up. You have multiple 64s. They're all working. Like it's all functional. It looks steezy as hell. Yeah. Tell us about that.
So this is insane. I have two rooms that are game rooms, right? But they're separated from a master bedroom and a bathroom. It goes to like a core room into a bigger game room, which is now a multi-functional room because I got a baby now. Parents, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's pretty tough. So I have now up to date 72 consoles. I have half that now into this particular room.
Wait, 72 consoles.
72 now. Yeah.
Woo!
It's getting bad.
Damn, son.
Which, I talked to a lot of guys, a lot of collectors on various social media platforms. This is nothing. I am in the bottom of the pale, guys.
Sheer number wise. And again, I have so many collectors on Instagram, so I'm not throwing shade on anyone. But what stood out for me when I saw yours is like, I've seen bigger collections, but yours was, and one, it's not just games. You have like paraphernalia, posters, figurines. It's all set up, cool LED lights. Everything's clean. All the cords are hidden. It's like all meticulous, different LEDs for different, and all the consoles are lined up. All of them are going through these crazy cord schemes into converters and switchers. And at any time you can grab any game and put it into any console and fucking play.
Ready. I have zero free time, now I have more free time, but when you got a kid, it's tougher. But at that time, when I started to build a game room, I had zero time. I'll get 20, 30 minutes here and there. And I hated trying to find the controller, plug in the AV component and the TV and going back there and trying to guess where the friggin' things are being plugged into. And I was like, man, no, I'm going to go ahead and spend some time. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing done right. I have every single console hooked up into every TV in the room. So if I want to play, which is not good, but if I want to play a retro game on a newer TV, I can with a converter. Is it a good idea? No, not at all. But I thought it was cool in my head at the time. Now getting more involved in the retro community, I'm starting to learn more about CRTVs. So I invested a lot of time into figuring out which TV I wanted to get. So now I have the Trinitron, the sexy Sony TV, which is the one that's behind me currently. Beautiful TV, looks fantastic. And then I also have two other CRTs in the other room. So we got that core area that is currently hooked up to all these consoles in this game room, which is unnecessary, but it's possible. So if I want to have, I have some friends over in the bigger room and I just want to have clock tower running in the background of these multi CRTVs, I just go ahead and put it on, go into his room, flick on the PlayStation, and it's going to be playing in the other room.
I just had I think a really good idea. It might be a bad idea because I'm most definitely high, but you spent time researching which TV to get specifically because of the people who love CRT filters, like the CRT look, y'all diehards, and I like it. The reason I'm not into it is because I don't have access to it, and the convenience of like emulation, having it all on one rig and making video, all that shit. So because I know CRT is something like, that's why I shy away from like pixel games, and I've been focusing a lot on PS1 and PS2 and being like, okay, let me push that into HD, like DIY remasters, because I think that's a better fit for my setup. But what I would love, and I've thought about doing this because of Saturn emulation. Have you done any research on like, how do you capture what you see as a CRT sitting in front of it and then get that captured into content? Because like, what if you had a YouTube channel or where it's like, you go through all the meticulous shit to like actually capture what it's like to look at a CRT, like your Triniton, the one that's awesome. Yeah. But I can watch it on YouTube from my computer and be like, I can get that same look. It's not, you know, a lot of games will have like CRT filters.
It's not upscaled. Yeah. Yeah. You know, so there's different ways of doing it. The way I do it. So say if I want to go ahead and stream whatever X game on my CRTV to Twitch, right? I use a older Elgato capture card and AV component, you know, to a converter to that Elgato. And I'm going to not stretch the image. I'm going to go ahead and scale it to its original, so 16:1 size on the Streamlabs. Yeah, as a basically what's going to be capturing the audio and the video. Okay, and I'm going to have like a block layered, which I'm going to put my the cam of you seeing me, and then whatever runtimes I want to put down on there. But you don't want to stretch that image. When you stretch that image, that's when you're starting to get that. It's starting to take away the pixels, the quality. When you capture that, does it look like what you see when you play it, or does it look a little different? It looks a little different, but that's the best what you can do for right now. Okay. But your capture card is going to try to upscale it automatically. That's going to be, you're going to have to go into the settings. You don't want it to 1080. You want it to be the 480p. You don't want it to do anything that's going to try to change the quality. You want it to be as raw as much as possible. Yeah. There's even streamers who, it's a fantastic idea. They take the webcam and they just have an extension on the wire from their PC and put it overhead over their shoulder, and they're capturing their TV. Actually, it's pretty dope because you're getting more of a you're getting more of the effect. Couch. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Like, what if there's a way to just like capture your actual screen? Yeah. Even with that, you're not capturing the full experience with the quality. No. But I think that there would be a niche, because like I watch, maybe it's just because this kind of shit I watch, but I'm looking at these YouTube channels like Nintendo Complete Games where they're just doing full playthroughs, and they're getting a fair amount of traffic because people are like looking for the game or a certain section of the game. And it's like, okay, but how do you do it different? And I've been creating content around like, okay, if you want to see all the bosses in Final Fantasy VIII, but with all the best mods and all the best texture packs and with the best, like, then there's only one place you're going to see that, right? I would love to see a channel. It's like, well, what if I want to see some certain old game, but I don't want to see it the way I can see it on my emulator. I want to see what it's like if I actually had the best CRT TV and then watch some footage of that. I don't think there's a huge audience for it. I know there's a huge community. CRTV has their own community, and they're very passionate, insane, awesome people. And there's also a lot of retro gamers that just want to chill. They necessarily don't want to see a speedrunner, and I'm not knocking speedrunners at all. I think they're freaking fantastic. Yeah. To be able to create that environment where you're just vibing, playing that game, trying to capture that quality. For me, for what I understand for right now, is almost impossible to get it raw. Yeah. I'm sure somebody's listening like, no, it's simple. You got to do it this way. Or someone will figure it out. I just think that'd be a good angle. Like if you're going to create gaming content anyway, it's like, I think, okay, I'm the guy that's meticulous. You got to be honest, like, and you legitimately are passionate about CRT. Yeah. So it's like, you want to inject some of that shit into your content because you love CRT, and CRTs are fucking awesome. There is something like, I love Cyber Ninja came out in Games Pass. It's like this indie Ninja Gaiden clone. Katana Zero has it. Some of these new indie pixel tilers are coming with like different CRT emulation filters. Mm-hmm. You can even like emulate like the chords being bad or the chords being switched. You get like this color blur.
and like you can see and you can adjust the lines. And I've played with them a few times, and like I've gotten a few of them looking pretty sex.
It's a VR game where that's the basis of the game. You're a kid in your like living room, and you're playing on a CRTV and you're playing a older console game. And the whole objective is you're playing this game and your mother is like vacuuming and cleaning, and you're basically like got to try to beat this level before she friggin' hits your console or gets in your way. It tells you to go outside. I think there's a point of the game where you can actually like sit from the window and you can play the game while you're outside the window, which I have done as a kid. I think a lot of us have done that where parents kick you out of the house. You go outside and get some fresh air. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the TV around so I can watch it from outside the window and just have your controller.
You said your grandpa, did he get you your first console?
No, it was so I'm the youngest out of four. So there's three older brothers.
Nice.
And they had the Atari 2600. They had the NES. So I came into the game with those in hand. And they were into like sports and stuff. And I was little. I remember I was like 4 or 5 years old playing on the NES, playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at the arcade and Ghosts and Goblins. God, I must have hated myself as a kid. As I got a little bit older, my grandfather saw that, I was into this new technology that he didn't understand. And, we'll walk around the mall and there's a game, in KB Toys. And I'm like, oh, I really want that game. And he would. And my grandfather didn't have a lot of money at all. He was very poor. And thinking about it now, I'm like kind of selfish. But yeah, he would scrap whatever change he had and he bought the game for me. Pretty rad of him.
Did you instantly become a gamer? Like you were love at first sight? Or during the NES days, was it like you liked it, but it wasn't like you weren't a full on gamer?
Yes and no. When I went to school, I would try to like talk about video games strategy and they were not into it. They were all into like sports and stuff. I was a fat kid, man.
Hey, I was pretty fat too.
At that point, no. But when I go home, I had 3 older brothers that were like, oh yeah, we've been grinding on these games. So they would sit around and watch and, they would buy little strap books for me. So yeah, I was technically like a true gamer. There was a point when parents divorcing and stuff like that, I was getting like distracted away from video games. First day we had a Super Nintendo on Christmas, my mom friggin' picked it up and chucked it on the ground and broke it. So we were without a Super
on Christmas Day.
On Christmas Day,
what shit did you pull off? What caused that?
Nothing. I was actually in gaming and I was sitting behind my brother. He was playing Donkey Kong Country and my mom was vacuuming and they wanted us to go over to like an uncle's aunt's house or whatever to like do Christmas Day over there too for them. They had partially we had to go to my grandmother's and whatever. She's vacuuming and she's like, shut the game off. We're at the boss level. We're about to beat the game. So we've been grinding on since like early in the morning. My mom's like, shut the game off. And my brother's like, no, we're about to beat the game. And she like picked it up, ripped the cords out and chucked the Super Nintendo on the ground, broke it. Yeah. My mom was cool as shit. Like, but she was pretty crazy too.
Well,
my grandfather heard about it and he ended up replacing and getting us a new Super Nintendo, which that was rad of him.
Dude, Gramps coming in clutch over and over again.
Yeah, dude. My grandfather was cool as shit, man, growing up.
Did he live close to you?
Rhode Island's pretty small. At that time, we lived in Newport. My father was in the military. So we had to like go across like this big toll bridge. So it was like a 20-minute drive from here.
Still, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I had a set of grandparents that were really close to me growing up, and I was pretty tight with them. I also get where your mom's coming from because I have 2 little kids. They're like back to back, and there's days where it's me or my wife. Like it's just you'll get there because you got a second one coming. Like the grind, dude.
Yeah,
there'll be days where they just suck all the love and patience out of you because it's just life sometimes. And
I have one. I love this girl to death, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah, there's just like. And you get like you'll just have these days where it's like you're on edge. They just normally by itself that singular thing spilling this or talk whatever wouldn't set you off, but it's just the timing, other shit's happening, and it gets hard. I've told people I'm super open. Like I got pretty mad at my oldest. We were at like this cabin thing with some family, and she was 5 or 6. Sometimes bedtime was like rough, right? It was super frustrating at bedtime and. there were other people sleeping there, and I was super nervous about her like disturbing other people, being embarrassed, like your kid being the one that's like the shit, right? I put her to bed, like did the whole routine, and she had like one or two like issues or crying, and we had another kid in there sleeping. Her little sister was even younger, and I didn't want her to wake her up and then ruin the whole. It's very fragile, this bedtime thing. Yeah. Just like a door cell we were talking about earlier. It's very fragile. Anyway, she like the third time or something, I got in and I was super mad. And I grabbed her by her arm and I was like really close. And I was pretty mean. And I forgot what I said to her, but I was super pissed. And I knew I was being too mean. And I squeezed her pretty hard and was like pushing her into the bed. It was mean. It's mean as shit to a 5-year-old. It was not cool.
So you're basically the mom from Home Alone.
Yeah, but I'm just way stronger and probably scarier. And I knew, like, the moment I did it, I knew I fucked up. Like, I knew. And then she said, "You forgot to turn my light on. It was like my fault."
Oh, Jesus.
You know what I mean? And I was just like,
you felt really shitty, huh?
oh, and then cause she's crying, whatever. And then and this is when I realized she was getting old enough to have like emotional. I was like, well, I told her, I'm sorry. I'm wound up. It was my fault. Like, I'm like, will you forgive me? And she said, "I don't know yet."
Wow.
And I was just like, okay, lesson learned. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you got to learn that if you get caught on the right day and the right frustration, you will fucking do some shit to your kid.
That's a core memory for you.
That's a core memory for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like humbling, like, because you look at someone, like you could look at a mom screaming at her kid in the mall or something and be like, and you'll judge them. You'll be like, fuck, get your shit together. Like, freaking out, don't be a piece of shit. And because back of your mind, you're like, I would never, I don't do that. I would never do that. You realize, oh, you will. That if you're not careful, you will do the same shit.
My kid is a year and 8 months. And last week I brought her to this pretty big mall and she sees this carnival ride, with the horses, the old rides we used to ride when we were kids, with the horses, dragons and all that. My kid loves it. For her first year birthday, we brought her to Disney World and we brought her on that. And she remembers that's like a core memory as a toddler. Like, oh, that's the thing that I love. She sees it. And I'm like, man, you know what? I got a couple of dollars on me. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my kid on this ride. I go to the lady, the attendant, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to do 2 rides. I'm going to surprise her. I'm going to give her 1. And then I'm like, no, stay. We got another one.
Yeah.
So we did that. So she's super happy. I'm like in the moment. So second one, I'm like, all right, now it's time to get off. She has a tantrum, screaming in the mall. You get the echoing. Everyone in the line is like staring at me and they're like all judgmental Karen. So mental picture what a Karen looks like. That's them. They're in line. So I pick her up and I'm taking her. She's kicking the shit out of me, grabbing my beard and tugging on me.
Yeah, she's going hard in the paint.
She is kicking my ass, man. So I finally take her off and I put her down and she tries to drop on the floor. I'm like, no, COVID. I'm like, come on, kid, get up. They're all staring at me, except one lady is kind of like this black lady just looking at me. She's like understanding, like she knows.
She gets
like,
it. Yeah.
She gets it. All the other people in the Karens were like staring at me. Immediately, I was like, I get up. She's on the ground and I go, all right, let's go run to get your ghost. She has this teddy bear ghost. She's into ghosts right now. So I'm like, oh, I would run and I go to grab the teddy bear. And she immediately goes from tantrum on a level 12 to laughing, chasing her dad. And I get her into the stroller and I'm starting wheeling. The lady, the black lady goes, good. You're a good father. I was like, thank you so much. I said it loud enough so everyone in line will hear me. I'm like, thank you so much. Cause I was really feeling it, man. All those eyes burning me, lasers just staring at me. And, I'm a new dad and, I got this pressure, but I had that in my head, my core memory in my head of my dad fucking ripping me across the mall when I was crying and like just fucking like grabbing me super hard and picking me up. I remember that shit. And I was like 3 years old. And I remember her on the ground. And I thought immediately of my father. And I connected the two. And your story reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Recently last week.
I've also found that if you're paying attention, you can get into the opposite zone where it's like you sort of intuitively know how to handle shit. Yeah. And when you're in that zone, it's almost like magic. It's not 100% analytical and logical. A little bit of it's like an intuition. I've never been an intuition type person. I've always been like very analytical in my head. As I've gotten older, I've learned like, man, there is, like I said, we were talking about earlier before the podcast, that I've learned that any hot topic, there's truth in all things. And I used to think woo woo hippie shit was just woo woo hippie shit. Your vibe, bro. I just know I'm a blah blah and my crystals and just like fuck off. I was not into any of it. And in general, I still think obviously there's truth to both sides, and there's always bullshit to everything too. And there's definitely bullshit in that world. But this idea of there's some sort of knowing or intuition that we have that's maybe, I don't know if it's emotional based or it's electromagnetic or like, we have something that's kind of like flow state. I don't know. Like I've experienced it a little bit, but you can get there with your kid where it's like, you just, I don't know, like that to me, that's like you thought of your dad. You just knew it. You knew that like, all right, this is the combo and it's going to flip her switch and she's going to be laughing. And it's like, yeah, it's almost like playing a sport. You don't know what move you're going to make until like they're counter moving. And if you're in the zone, you're in the zone.
It's funny that you said that. I felt like I didn't have control until I was started to run. Like my brain was like on autopilot. It was like,
yes,
do this. Like something told me like, do this.
Yes.
And that's me, the voice in the back of my head.
That's a weird feeling. I'm glad you've had that. Like this, sometimes you're just along for the ride.
Yeah.
And have you ever seen the movie Abyss? You love movies. I would guarantee you have. The fucking Abyss, bro.
Yes. I love the Abyss.
For those who haven't seen it, it's like, what year was that? 90 something?
It's old enough to try to find on VHS, which I've been trying to find on VHS. So yeah, it's probably like 96.
One of the earliest usages of CGI in movies. They had this effect of this like alien water entity that was just like kind of, if you've ever seen Donnie Darko, the scenes where he sees like the thing in front of him, similar effect, but the Abyss was cooler. They did a better job and it was water. That's what that feeling reminds me of. It's like you're just kind of along this thing, and then sometimes you snap.
Thing is coming out of your chest, and you're just going with it. Yeah,
it happens. Like it's flow. I mean, flow state's a real thing. I know people. There's a lot of research around that, and athletes talk about it. And it's like this heightened state.
It's in the realm of lucid dreams.
Yes, dude. If you want to get real crazy, do you believe in astral traveling?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I don't. Well, I'll say this. I don't know if you actually are like traveling or it's all in your head, but I know you can have the experience because I've done it. And this is not like I've done all the drugs in the world and I've had crazy shit on psychedelics. I've done stone cold astral travel multiple times by following a protocol to do it. Like listen to this, visualize this, and the shit happens. I don't know if it's like, I have a theory that you're not actually going anywhere, but you're just like seamlessly transitioning into a dream. And maybe you're not actually like, consciousness going somewhere, but you're just like going right into the dream world. But then people could argue, well, how do you know the dream world isn't real in some way? Like, well, I don't know actually. So when people tell me, they're like, you believe in that shit? I'm like, all I know is you can have the experience. You can have the experience. Just like you can take a shit ton of DMT and you can talk to alien insect gods. I've done it. I don't know if they're real, but you can do it.
We're going to talk about some weird shit. Because I totally agree with you. In high school, 4 years of high school, depression and all that shit. I was very busy as a kid, doing all the sports, football, wrestling, indoor and outdoor track, and boxing, and a different gym, working a full-time job as a kid. And then I would get like 3 or 4 hours of sleep. But within that 4 hours of sleep, I would willingly understand that I have a different world in my head. I'm like, all right, I'm closing out this fake world. I'm going into now a reality. Understanding that I'm close my brain, shut off everything. I lived it like next to the street. It was busy, a lot of like police sirens and shit like that. And everything just completely shut off. And you have this ambient noise and I can hear my heartbeat and I'll just slowly calm down my breathing. And then I'll picture something. I'll picture like this girl that I liked or whatever. And, I was dating this girl for a while. Fucking float to her house and see her. And it was funny because the day that we were going to break up, I already told her, I'm like, yeah, I understand that, that you've been dealing with some like emotional trauma with your father. And she's like, how would you know that? I'm like, I didn't want to explain it to her, but I just had this mental image of her arguing with her father in her room that he was moving out. This is, she was an orphan. So, he was moving to Florida. He was my principal as well. Hopefully she's not watching this podcast. She's like, yo, you're dropping down my shit. I'm like, yeah, you got some stuff to figure out right now. And, as a, 16 years old, I'm going to take a step back and let you deal with your stuff. But if you want to do it together, we can do it together. We can battle this shit up together. But I think you need your own time. And it was from that experience that this like fucking vampire joined me outside of a window, watching that whole experience transpire.
When if you can remember, because I've done the astral traveling protocol from the Monroe Institute. Each time the experience and the build up to the experience was essentially the same thing, but it sounds like some of it was similar. I guess walk me through, like you're laying in bed, like what do you remember experience? You start picturing her?
No, I would pick a point in the neighborhood.
Okay, so
it would focus
on a location.
Yeah, I would focus on a location. I couldn't leave from my body to that point A to her place. I would picture a bridge, which is like kind of like 2 miles down the road. I would be walking up the hill, the roadway to where she lived, and I could feel like the cold air, the brisk air of like fall, and I would feel that air, and then I would picture her house and the windows and focus on like architecture of the place. And then from there, like I'm focusing so hard that I fell asleep, and now I'm having that out of body experience.
Was there any like sensations during that transition? Noises, feelings?
A complete like quietness, and yes. I would sleep like this, like I'm a goddamn, like I'm in a coffin, you know, and I would like grab my chest, and then I would slowly like release. So I'm going from tense to release, and then focusing on like scent from smells, like try to feel the air, and then cutting out everything. There was a noisy house, man. You're like fighting downstairs and shit like that.
So you would eventually sleep, like all that noise would like, it would go away.
Gone. Yeah.
Yes, it's just completely weird. I definitely experienced like sound bubbles where it seems like everything gets quiet, like not just in your head, like it physically, the sound, like it's like a bubble.
Yeah.
And then you pictured her house, and then you saw, like, envisioned her and her. Go ahead.
Yeah. So she's on the second floor. She had like this bigger window, and you could fit like a jumbo jet to this damn window. She lived in a good neighborhood, man. I was a principal, goddammit. And I would like picture myself like out of body. Like I could physically see myself looking into her window and seeing her light on. It's like very warm colors in there, and her sitting on her bed, and her dad in the doorway arguing. Can't hear sound, but I could see like the body language and reading the room of what's going on, and kind of like understanding like this guy has, and like you could see his room from the window, like kind of like off in this core area where the stairs come up, and see that he had like bags and stuff packed, which he did. He ended up moving out like 3 days later, and like school was not even finished yet, and he ended up moving to Florida. Okay. So
I'm going to ask a few questions as devil's advocate, because I really am curious. Hey, we will talk about video games, I swear, but newsflash to all the listeners, I have been going down all the most crazy rabbit holes. I've been into aliens forever, but I got into paranormal. I don't want to get too sidetracked. There's a lot of stuff that just didn't hold up, but I do think out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, past life memories in children, these are all phenomena that have a lot of cases and a lot of strong evidence behind them. I mean, the freaking CIA, Project Stargate. I mean, they've been looking into astral traveling and remote viewing. The experience is real, but that's like not debatable. You can have the experience. You have the experience. Now the question is, I'm trying to figure out, like, are you exploring the subconscious, and maybe is there a universal collective subconscious that we share? And it's not real, but the commonalities are because there's like some sort of collective subconscious, or is it just your subconscious? But since we're all the same species, our subconsciouses are similar, so there's some overlap in the experiences. Or are you actually like, is there an actual reality outside that you're projecting your conscious to, and it's real in the sense of nuts and bolts real, kind of, in a way that this? So I want to ask you: is it possible? Were you aware in any way, or was there any clues that there was issues with her dad before this experience? Could it have been in your mind? Could you have already picked up that like something was not right before this experience?
Understand that she was an orphan. That's not her real father. Like that is evident of, yes, there's possibly an issue. Didn't know that he would have left her. Yeah, I thought the relationship was pretty tight. Looking back at it now, you took in these two kids. She has a sister that's like her legitimate sister. She's from a different country. Like, who does ups and leaves like to go to be with another woman? Like, why not like take them with you? Like she's young.
That is
very
weird.
strange.
Yeah.
And this is a really cool principle. Like I grew up to respect and know this man. And, you know, we would talk in the morning before I even dated her. Like, this is not a person that would do something like this. I think that's like very traumatizing especially for someone her age. You know, she's new teenage. She's just getting into college. So yeah, it was very unusual. So I think like at that point, understanding the relationship, that would have been the last thing I would have thought of. I would have thought of her moving, but not him actually like bailing her. And this girl was going through some like trauma shit. Like she was like cutting herself, and that's some like screaming for help, you know?
Yeah.
She was wearing his clothes. Like she was used to wear his socks because, you know, this is like this father issue going on.
Yeah. That's rough, dude. I do think with heightened emotional, like I think people can have emotional connections in a way that can like bleed into like perception and experiences. Like, for example, I mean, psychedelics are psychedelics, but I have an experience where the first time I did acid, I did with a really good friend of mine who'd done it a few times. We've been homies for like a decade.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know at the time he had been like really struggling. Like I didn't have a connection. I hadn't picked up that he was like, I knew he was down, but I didn't know how bad it was. I just hadn't picked up on it. And we're like in the middle of this trip and he starts opening up. We smoked weed because we thought we were coming down, and the combination, we both had this experience where I just remember in the moment, it was so clear to me that life is just a play. It's all bullshit. Like it's all just like an illusion.
That's very dangerous. How old were you?
32, 33.
Okay. Well, I think it's more dangerous for someone that is like early 20s. In my early 20s, without the aid of drugs, I basically had a schizophrenic break and talked to God, and that's a whole different story. Mm-hmm.
But I definitely have a history of it. And that is the time when most people who are schizophrenic are male, and it's between like 19 and 23. And that's exactly when I had my most mentally unstable moments. But luckily, it wasn't like I didn't stay that way. It was like I just realized in the moment that like this is all just a play. And I just thought it was really funny. Like, he went like dark after that. Like we both had the same experience, but my psyche interpreted it in a way where I laughed really hard and then I was fine. I had like a laughing attack. We went really south for him after that. And me and his little brother, who was also tripping with us, like he was dealing with some real shit, and he'd go upstairs. His wife was upstairs. I have really bad hearing and I can't hear very well. And I don't know when he's coming down, but I could tell where he was in the house because it was like the emotional charge, his negative emotional charge. It was like I could sense it. I knew where he was. I knew when he was coming down the stairs. He'd come in the room, and me and his little brother would be like, because like it would offload onto us, and he would be like, dude, when I come in the room, I feel it offload. And it was like we were tripping our balls off, but it was, I don't know how to explain it. Like there's an element to that was real. Like the emotions were like connecting. And I think that can also, like, why could that same whatever's going on there, why couldn't that same mechanism, if the dream state or the lucid dreaming state or astral traveling is like
have a connection
and attract and pull things together? I don't really see. I mean, look, all these experiences, again, you cannot deny that the experiences are real. People have these experiences. They happen, full stop. It's just like how you interpret that. Is it just in your brain? And what is the evidence for and against that? And I'm open to it. Again, I had some astral traveling experiences. I didn't go and like collect any information from behind a locked safe and come back and then go test it and find out if I was actually looking at the note. You know, there was no control, which they did do that shit, the CIA. And sometimes those people were successful. Newsflash.
I think everyone has it.
You think I do?
I think everyone has it. Some people are more attuned to it. Some people are like really good therapists. They have like this really good intuitive understanding of like human behavior, and they have a connection with their patient. And with me in law enforcement, I remember like straight out of FTO, this guy is like just came in. He had a rough experience with the patrol people that brought him in to take him to intake. And this guy's all wired up. He's like pissed off at the world. This guy is screaming at nurses and shit like that. And me and him get into a screaming match. And there's a point where I just had this like weird connection with him. And I just stopped myself. And I remember like kind of like crouching down to his level. He's in a wheelchair. They had to wheel him in. And this guy got like tased, maced and everything. And he was like having one of the roughest times. And I just said, listen, fuck me. All right. Listen, can we just stop what we're doing right now and just start from scratch, blank canvas? Let's just go back at this. listen, I understand that there's a lot of fucking dickhead cops, and I'm sure I don't know what happened out there, but now you're in here. Let's just go ahead and have a clean slate. And this weird thing of this guy being super escalated got super de-escalated into us as having like a human interaction to be able to communicate. And we both got what we wanted. I got him, taken care of, and it was weird. But one of the deputies, a seasoned deputy, came up to me and was like, "That is the most strangest interaction that I've ever witnessed in my time of working in law enforcement." And I'm like, he's just a human being. I remember saying that. I was like, this guy's just a human being. Yeah. And this guy, we don't know what happened. Like maybe he's innocent or maybe he's not. But the truth is, like, who's us to judge? It's our job to be able to take care of it. He's in our custody.
You're way too nice to be a cop, dude.
And that's why probably didn't last too long.
Yeah, it's a hard-ass job.
I worked with a lot of douchebags, and I also worked with some phenomenal deputies. Shout out to Sean Feverson. He's no longer with us. He passed away on duty. I served with him. He was my partner. Awesome guy, but he's younger than me, and he it's weird. He said he used to look up to me. I used to look up to him, but he was one of the guys that would have this connection with people and a way of just doing his job and able to cool people down, man. Like crazy people who were like signal 20s or blitz out of their mind, was able to like chill with them,
Yeah.
So
there's I think we are wired, even from an evolutionary perspective. Like, why wouldn't we be wired to have, not just based on like reading facial expressions and body language? That's definitely a part of understanding and communicating emotion. But why wouldn't we have some sort of way to be able to like intuit and feel? Because it would be useful for survival and navigating the tribe and social. Like, of course, like I don't even know if that's necessarily a woo-woo thing. Like, there are some people that are just tuned better than others at that. Like, it just is a thing. All the cops I know from jujitsu, and I have a feeling that like if they're proactively training, they're probably like so it's like every cop I know is a fucking badass. Like, I know there's dickhead cops, but my small sample size is they're just all badasses. But I only know the ones that go and proactively train.
Yeah, I think people who, just generally speaking, people who do practice mixed martial arts, they're not only training to be healthy, but they're training to survive. Yeah. And I think they feel like a lot of law enforcement officers that do train and they stay healthy and up to speed, especially like knowledgeable. I'm sure like not only they're practicing in the gym, but they're also reading books and able to grow. They have more of a control of the situation. Like, all right, this person, he might be a badass too, but at least I feel more confident in myself to be able to de-escalate situations.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're badasses, man. I'm sure they've been in some hairy situations, but I mean, if they're in jiu-jitsu, I'm sure they know how to like get themselves out of it,
Yeah. I don't know. I don't talk to them about it much. And I get the sense that they're there to not think about work. You know what I mean?
There's that. Yeah. The just escaping, you know?
I just always get the sense, like sometimes I'll ask questions and they'll be nice. Like, like ask one guy, like, what's the craziest chase you've ever been in or something? And he told me this story, but I also get the sense where it's like, they don't want to talk about it. I'm like,
they don't.
So I don't ask that much.
Gaming was my release, man. Gaming. Like I used to come home from a shift and I would play. I remember I got into Battlefield 3. I was like new to multiplayer gaming, like after like Halo and shit, like the original Halos. So I'm like 360 is like kind of new. And I'm like trying to figure out how to like wire my head this, like not this gen, but the one before it, trying to figure out how to hook that up to the 360 and play with the, deputies, people who just got off shift too. And nobody wanted to talk about work. It was more about like, what gun are you using in the game,
Yeah. I know for the listeners that are still here, I'm going to ask him about his gaming memories, you selfish assholes. Tell me, just kidding.
This is therapy, guys.
This is therapy. I think it's good too. So I don't know. I just let the podcast be whatever. I just find these other subjects more interesting than his gaming memories at the moment. So hopefully you guys are sticking around. Maybe we could focus in on some horror gaming because then you kind of brought it up. And I've been trying to only do horror. Baby. I've been trying to do only horror videos. I had the goal of like, I'm going to do one like Halloween themed game every day this month. And I made like 4 and it's the 19th. So I'm pretty far behind. But I did Silent Hill 1, revisiting that and emulation. And that was like sick. And I ended up watching a playthrough because I had kind of forgotten the story. And I forgot how, 'cause as a kid, I don't think I didn't beat it. I got pretty far. And I think I beat 2. I definitely beat 4, The Room. I don't think I ever played 3. Like going back and rewatching and playing a portion of it and then watching through a bunch of different playthroughs for the video. The story in Silent Hill is all sorts of fucking metal, demonic, awesome, but it's never like over the top. And then, as you said, the music, just forgot how good that game is. Usually I'll go back and play an old game and it's like I'm trying to hype up for nostalgia, the parts that I like, but I might like just kind of not mention a few things that I really don't like about the game that was like bullshit. But I'm trying to make people feel good, nostalgia, the shit they like. But Silent Hill legitimately was like, this game is still awesome. Still awesome.
It's fucking terrifying.
Yes.
I can play Outlast. Outlast is horrifying.
Oh,
but Silent Hill. Silent Hill is just a different animal.
But I can play Silent Hill. It's like a good Outlast, another game, just like Resident Evil 2 remake. Outlast was too good as far as good at being scary. I just at some point
they perfected it.
They perfected it.
They're the Salt guy. They're just like
Salt Bay.
I'm gonna destroy everyone right now. Have you ever played that with VR?
No. Why?
Outlast.
Why would you?
Don't do it. Wouldn't recommend anyone to do it. I've done it. I've made it to the point where I'm like scooting in the beginning of the game to between the bookshelves, and that big ass dude just straight up grabbing you. Totally forgot that happened. Almost
throws you over the balcony, right?
Yeah. And you're playing VR, so you're getting that POV of this. Yeah, it's not good. It's not healthy.
For those who haven't played the game, I don't know if it definitely wasn't the first one of its type. And some like Fatal Frame was like you just had a camera, but this is first person. You're like a journalist. You break into a crazy insane asylum. Some shit's gone down. Everything's fucked up. All you have is a camera. There is no fighting. All you can do is run and hide.
You have to utilize your batteries. I'm telling you, this camera dies. Yeah.
Yes.
You need the night vision on the camcorder to be able to see where the hell you're going.
So every enemy encounter, it's a puzzle to figure out like how do you hide and get by these enemies without, and it's just too much. Like I guarantee my cortisol levels were like 4x.
Now you said Fatal Frame. Do you know what's happening in 6 days from now? I'm sure by the time this is released, it's already going to be out.
Fatal Frame, right? Coming out.
I'm so excited. Yeah.
So I have to admit, I know Fatal Frame is like this cult classic, especially the first one on PS2, I believe is widely considered like the GOAT. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, it is the GOAT.
Most people, yeah. And I started it to get I tried it out. I was thinking about doing a video on it. It didn't catch me during the day, but I know Fatal Frame some people consider it the best horror game ever. Like a lot of people. I see that. I don't know if it's common for people to think that, but it's legendary. And from what I understand, it's the same idea. You use a camera if you can take a picture of the ghost, it goes away, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Because you think about this is Japan, so they're dealing with jinns.
Yes.
I know you're talking about paranormal stuff, but gyms would be most commonly afraid of film, more like the older film, taking pictures of it and get rid of it. It's like playing Phasmophobia, take a picture of it, disappears. Picture was a gym.
Have you heard the conspiracy theory? Like old school Polaroids with like the way they did the chemicals actually better at capturing energies and shit. And that's why a lot of like the new cameras don't capture as much as back in the day Polaroids. I was watching this documentary called Surviving Death on Netflix. Highly recommend it. I only felt like the first episode about near-death experiences and the last two about children with pre-life memories were compelling, but they did have some other stuff. And one of the compelling things was like this idea that like this one guy had this house and he had like thousands of photographs. He just been like documenting all this, and it was like, okay, did he fake all of them? And he was talking about like certain Polaroids years of film are like better at capturing, and digital cameras. Anyway, I don't know if you've heard anything about that. Know more about that.
Yeah. So before COVID, we were talking, me and my brother, Tony, we were talking about getting to investigations of paranormal activity. We got all the equipment, and it was actually something that he brought up to use older film. Never actually used it. He used the tools. He actually did his own investigations with my other brother. He's like badass Green Beret, but she had his own experiences, so he believes in it. And I guess apparently he heard the same thing that capturing, I call them Orbeez, but orbs. Orbeez sounds cute. I don't know, man. Like for me, I disagree. It's like that Bigfoot thing of like capturing dust particles and say, oh, that's an orb. That's fucking dust, bro. I don't know. I'm skeptic, but I also have my experiences that kind of like have me open-minded to it. I don't know.
I've never had a paranormal experience, but I have had I don't know how to explain it, a legit UFO experience that I had in high school. And I was with like 15 other people and I have since contacted them as an adult and asked them, and everybody remembers it. It was very long. It was like 45 minutes to an hour long sighting of a light in the sky that basically put a show on for us.
And you're in Utah, I believe.
I'm in Utah. It's the skin. Like we're not that far at the wedge, not that far from the basin by Skinwalker Ranch, where this shit happens all the time. I've been way into aliens for a long time. I don't know if they're real, but I think at this point it's undeniable that someone's got some tech. There's some craft up there that the Pentagon says they admit there's craft up there. It's not ours. Okay,
wait, is that what you guys saw, or was it a craft?
Mine was not a craft. It was like it looked like a craft in the beginning, but ultimately the only detail was a light. Again, so the reason I bring this up, it may not be UFO because UFO and paranormal experience and orbs, floating orbs, are both associated with UFO phenomena and paranormal phenomena. A lot of people think there's a connection. Some people think that paranormal is aliens with cloaking suits and they're not really ghosts. But I also think there's there seems to be energy left over from people or memories or echoes or something. I'm open to all of it. Like I don't know I haven't had a paranormal experience,
or time travel.
Or time travel. That's another
different
one.
Planes, yeah.
Shit. I mean, if we survive for another million years, if it is physically possible with the physics that govern the universe, that you can time travel. If that's possible, let's say assume it is. Let's say it's assume at some point, if you had enough knowledge, you can build a device that will allow you to time travel, or there's some sort of mechanism to do that. And if we don't kill ourselves and we survive long enough, then at some point we should have a threshold where we figure out how to do it. And once you figure out how to do it, then it's always existed. So it's like, I think I'm open to the possibility.
I don't want to get off topic, but how do you feel about dreams? Like having a dream, like, what do you think the science behind it?
I've never heard anything that resonates. I've never heard an idea where it's like, that feels like there might be something to that. I will say this. As a kid, I had a lot of lucid dreaming experience. There's a period of time in my life where I had lots of lucid dreams, where I would recognize I was dreaming and I would always fly. And I'd always try to bang a hot chick. And I would always try to throw fireballs out of I would do cool shit, fly around mountains.
Fucking Mario over here.
Yeah. I would just and I would get stoked. I'd be like, because it would happen enough where I'd get excited, like shit. And I would sometimes get better at controlling the dream and how long I could stay in that lucid state. Those were some powerful dreams, but I had one dream that I just talked about recently. I should say it like that made me think that they might be something more than just like your brain processing the information for the day. Like that's what the common theory is your brain kind of like downloads, moves things from short term to long term and sort of cleans everything out and sort of like, I'm sure that's going on. The neuroscience seems to be there.
I'm having these dreams of tsunamis yesterday, day before yesterday, I took a nap with the kid. And then that night I went to sleep. Then I'm at this beach. I'm with my wife and my daughter, and we're playing with my GI Joes, like my old school GI Joes. I still have, and they're being sucked into the waves, like getting sucked into the ocean or whatever. And then I look up and I see this huge tsunami. This thing's like maybe 100 yards away. And I had that dream. It scared the shit out of me. And then I ended up having the same dream again. Tell my wife, I'm like, I don't remember seeing anything about tsunamis or reading anything about tsunamis. And I'm having these dreams of tsunamis. It's very strange. And the POV just felt so real. It was just fucking.
So the vivid level was like higher than normal vividness, right? You felt like it's one of those dreams you come out of it and you're like emotionally riled up.
My shirt was drenched, like my collar here was like sweating. So, I was like, what the hell?
I had those. My guess would be, so I've had a few, like right when my daughter was being born. So my two interpretations, which is again, armchair stoner, just guess based on my own experiences, how I've tried to interpret my own dreams. Usually it's like, I call them dreams of passivity, where something's happening to you and you can't seem to do anything about it. So are you having a passive dream? And do they come in lots of forms, like impending doom in lots of different ways? I had recurring dreams of this bald guy coming and murdering my family. I would always escape, but I could never save my family. Like years, I had the same dream. I had a dream about the end of the world, like second coming Jesus, nuclear explosions a lot. I've had earthquake dreams. The most vivid one is I think my kid was coming and I was just stressed about being a dad and the responsibility.
Well, I got a new kid on the way.
Yes. Like speaking of video games, I'm assuming you played PT before it all got ripped off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So the ghost Lisa is like in this hallway and I was trapped and basically, yeah. If
It's
you played that
behind you the
game,
whole time.
Yeah.
You heard about that?
No, the glitch, like they break the camera and she's behind you the whole time. It's fucking such a cool Kojima. That's why he's Kojima the son. He's Kojima.
He is the god.
Praise be his name. Everything about PT is genius, other than the fact that Konami and Kojima couldn't get along and it never actually got executed on. But the point being, the dream was I got trapped in that hallway with her and I couldn't run. And I remember like getting to the point where my only option is to face her. And so I got like nose to nose and she screamed. She was one of the, and I right back at her. I was like, bruh, I just like stood my ground. And I think for me, it was emotionally just coming to grips with like, you have to accept this is happening, right? You can't run away. Like the kid's coming and it's like,
you got badass.
I think so. My guess would be, and I still have dreams about like my kids getting taken, fucking I have these dreams where like my family's like, we have to go through like this like haunted house that's like, basically they put people through to kill for, it's almost like Squid Games, but it's a haunted house. And I'm trying to get my family through these set of puzzles and it's all these serial killers and it's like, we never make it. And I always escape and my family, I can never save my family. And it's like, I think it's just like fear of not being like adequate or like, that's the interpretation of it. It's just like you dealing, you're just trying to deal with life. It's just your brain and your emotions you're trying to deal. But I also think that they can be more, they can be a message. I had a dream. I call him Kevin, the healer of men's souls. I like woke up in like the Akashic records, like this giant library, like wood panels, like an old school college library. And there was this Mr. Rogers type dude, this black dude in like a cardigan dressed up. Now he's just like walking around tinkering with stuff. And I went up and I talked to him. I don't remember the details of the conversation. I remember going back and forth a little. I have it written down, but I asked him if he was God. And he's like, no, I'm not the God you're thinking of, but I am a God. And I said, like, who created you? And he said, I don't know. Anyway, we just had this like conversation. And then did your mom ever have those kitchen timers that were white and they were dialed up?
Everyone had them, I guess.
Yes. You know what I'm talking about. And there's a specific sound when that thing rings. Like and yeah, he had like on the top of the library, there was like an apartment I could kind of see into the kitchen. A kitchen timer goes off. That kitchen timer, the exact one that my mom had, or the exact sound. And he looks at me and he goes, it's time for you to go. And I was like, but I don't want to go. Like I felt like he was like this. It felt good to be around him. Like there was, you know what I mean? And I was like, I started crying. I was like, I don't want to go. Don't make me go. And he said, you have to go, but I'll give you a gift before you go. And he put his hand on my chest and I got flooded with like overwhelming charity and love, like light, like Jesus energy, the Christ archetype, whatever. And then I woke up in the back of a car and a really good friend of mine who's like have a connection with. We're on a record label together. And he said, you just met Kevin, didn't you? And I was like, how did you know his name was Kevin? He's like, because I've met him too in my dreams, in my trips. And his job is to heal trauma from being like the experience of life. And then I woke up for real.
Dream in a dream, some Inception shit going on there.
Inception shit. Dream fucked with me for 2 weeks. So the reason I bring that up is like, I don't know if a tsunami dream, it's like, it just depends. I would say like how vivid and how much is it impacting you? Is it just like,
I'm thinking about it. I brought it up in a podcast. It's kind of weird, huh?
So
I don't know. You were talking about like all this stuff and I don't know. I think you'd be like the most equipped person to even, I don't have that much friends, so who do I even talk to about it?
And so when I don't know, I just tell people, well, this is my reference point. These are the experiences I've had. I've had a bunch of recurring dreams that I would wake up in a cold sweat. And I think it was nothing really special other than just like me dealing with the stress of life. Yeah. That's how I interpret them. But I've also had a handful of dreams like this Kevin one that I think were more. And I don't know for you, but that's my reference point. Like it's like, I kind of lean towards like, it's probably just stress in life. And you were telling me you've been unemployed and like all this shit. Like my guess would be if you're anything like me, it's just like, I've always had reoccurring passivity dreams. Like where it's always my family. Like we're stuck and I can't fix the car. The wheels fall. We're trying to escape this guy. Or like just they come in all sorts of flavors. The details. It's like I wouldn't say, oh, you should be worried about like traveling and going to the beach because you might get hit by a tsunami. You know what I mean? I don't think it's anything like that.
My wife's take on it was, she's like, your daughter is like going into your collectible stuff, like I have in the other room. And she's like, the toys being sucked in the ocean is a representation of, she's like, what did you do? Like, did you go for the toys? Or did you go for Maya and my daughter? I said, yeah, I grabbed Maya and I was like pulling her out of the water. We were getting sucked into the tsunami. And I remember like the toys drifting off. She's like, yeah, you're thinking about, you know what? Fuck it. Just let the kid play with your toys. I'm like, but I don't know. This shit's worth a lot of money, man. Like,
I could be some like maybe, I don't know. If it was me, I think like maybe, because I stress about this a lot myself. So I don't want to project my own fears onto you, but I stress a lot about like, I'm a good dad in the sense of like, I provide my kids the shit they need, but like, am I spending enough like good time with them? Like actual, or am I just like checking off the boxes and too obsessed with video games and the podcast or jujitsu or, because I'm a very obsessive person. I'm always doing something. Like,
yeah,
I'm always like nonstop.
You ever seen Reign Over Me? Watched the movie Reign Over Me with Adam Sandler?
No, never even heard of it.
Awesome movie. He's actually that movie got me into playing Shadow Colossus. You played that, right?
Oh.
Godly game.
Godly.
Adam Sandler. He's playing on a projector and he's playing Shadow Colossus. But anyways, that got me into that. But
not the remaster, the PS2 version.
I think he's playing on a PS3. Point. I think his PS3 could have been backwards compatible, but I'm pretty sure it was a Fat Boy PS3.
Okay.
Or it could have been a PS2. In the movie, he would always remodel his kitchen. There was a reason I'm not going to break. That's another one you can put on the list. Vanilla Sky and Reign Over Me, two of my favorite movies.
Reign Over Me.
And you also got to put Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Those all three are like correlated the best movies in my book of all time. But he's remodeling his kitchen like all the fucking time. Like I'm talking about like every other day. This guy is like changing the paint, moving buying new like stove tops and shit like that. I do the same thing with my game room. I spend more time remodeling this game room than I actually do playing video games.
Yes, I get weird. That.
Yeah.
Sometimes I spend more time tweaking with like emulators than actually playing the game.
There's a video that it went viral of mine that was on TikTok. It went viral twice and then ended up going on to like a gamer Facebook and it went viral there too. But it was I was in the middle of like moving shit, my computer desk and moving stuff around. I'm dealing with cables or whatever. And it was like real time. I was like, you know what, man, I'm just going to like record what's in my head at the time. I was talking about like why what got me into gaming or whatever. And a lot of people like hit me up. There was like thousands of comments of people flooding in and saying, yes, that right there is 110% relatable of they lose this connection of the thrill of playing video games, even the nostalgia factor of like, I can't get that shit back and I want to, I'm forcefully trying to play this game to get that nostalgic feel again, but I can't. So I spend that time making the room look beautiful. And I can't tell you how many times I moved this thing around, but I was talking to everyone about it. It was just weird, man. It was just very strange because I didn't expect a video like that to actually like get any hits or whatever. And it was weird to see how many people spend so much time on the tech side of not emulators, but converters and cables and fixing up their PC and actually not playing on their PC.
Yeah.
You're a father, man. You make some sacrifices of where you spend your time. Am I spending the time playing the video game? Like the game room's your child. Am I spending the time playing the game, playing with it, or adding shit that's unnecessary to the experience? You don't need all this shit to have fun retro gaming. All you need is a TV and the console and the game, and that's it. You don't need the lights. You don't need all this fancy shit. You just need the simple stuff.
That is all you need. I mean, my first thoughts are the room and the experience does. I mean, that's what I've spent a lot of money and time on my room.
Oh, I see that.
I mean, it's my
beautiful.
It's my beautiful. I mean, it's like this. I've been daydreaming about what I have for 15 years, and I finally like was able to make it happen. But at the end of the day, it doesn't guarantee that a game will hit the spot for me. You're right. It does help, and I like being in the room. But for me, this is how I've been approaching it: is if I'm going to play a game, then this is why I like the podcast and creating content. It has to be building towards something. It's like I play with the purpose, and I actually haven't. And then every once in a year, when it's a game that I know I'm like gonna love, like when Elden Ring comes out, there will not be a video or there will not be a podcast. There will be 3 months of Elden Ring, and that will be it. That'll happen a few times a year, and then the rest of the time, it's like, okay, I'm going to spend time gaming. I'm trying to build this podcast. I don't even. It's not even about the podcast making money, but that could be a nice side effect down the road. But it's more of like, I have to be progressing and building something. I got to be getting better. I got to be applying my focus to like, how do I make my videos better? How do I make it more sticky? How do I like make my process better? Because in my mind, if I'm just being honest, if I don't do that, I'll kill myself. Like what else is there to do than to like try to work at something? Like, I don't know what else to do. So I just have to do it.
That's scary.
It is. I mean, it's like, I don't say like I've ever been in, say that like I will kill myself, meaning it's more of a euphemism, meaning like I'm so wired to do that. Like it will never happen because that would be the alternative, but I would never, like I've never had that happen. My whole life, that's always been like, I'm obsessed with drumming, or I'm obsessed with music, or I'm obsessed with gaming, or the podcast, or jujitsu. Like there's always has to be something that like I put it all out into, and then that's like the mental stability. That's like keeps me grounded, and then I can be like whatever. But I get nervous that like sometimes it's like, do I need to learn how to like have less of that? Because this is therapy for me. I'm speaking real time. Like I need very little connection with people to feel like my relationship is healthy. I can spend 99% of my time alone working on whatever my project is.
Yeah.
We're working whatever my brain is. Meanwhile, my kids might actually need more than the 1% that I need. Right. And so that fucks with me.
You know, that whole concept of the plane crashing and the airbag comes down, you know, you got to put the mask on your face to get oxygen. They say to put the oxygen on your face before you put it onto your child's.
Yeah. Yes.
It's kind of like the same. I'm not going to say the same, but very similar to that. If you feel like you're damaged and maybe you're not aware that you're damaged, you feel like you need recovery. You kind of, everyone's selfish. So when I say selfish, it's not a bad thing. It's just a reality that everyone has. Selfishness. I'm selfish. I'm selfish when I'm in the game room fixing shit. When my daughter's in the next room over coloring. Yeah. I feel like I should be sitting down right next to her and coloring with her. Because you know that moment is gonna flee. Is gone. Yep.
And she's gonna be old before you know it.
That shit depresses the fuck out of me. And I think that's like one of the reasons why you don't see any content from me. I went from
That's true. You kind of stopped for a while.
Yeah, 3 months. I gained like 40,000, and then I was like getting 1,000 a month, and then I went to a really bad depression. Not gaming. I was giving shit away. I had like close to 4,000 games. I gave like close to like 400 games away. I was giving shit away. I was like, man, I don't need shit. I didn't like gaming anymore. I didn't like tech stuff. I didn't want to go on social media and see what other people are doing. I just wanted to be just by myself. And I just sit in that chair there and just stare at the wall. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And then go to sleep. Wake up and wash, rinse, and repeat and do it over and over again. And then try to get back into it. And then all that following that you had, the community that you built is basically, they lost attention. And that's actually comforting to me to not have that. I don't want to, when you get that followers and people to like, they know so much shit and they either bash your game room or they bash what you're doing or how you speak or maybe the terminology you use. It's very disheartening. You're like, I don't know. I don't want this anymore.
I'm definitely getting some of that. I had when the TikTok started doing really well, I saw like every video, it'd be like someone would find something to just fucking troll. And it was like, it took me like 3 to 4 weeks of like being obsessed over TikTok and like responding and like, I get like good quips back, but after about 3 or 4 weeks, I just was like, I'm tired and this is a pain in the ass. Yeah. And then I just like, I don't even look. I post and ghost. I just post it. And I was getting too sucked into social media too, as well. I recognize the same thing. Like if I don't just put a hard stop on this is going to suck me down to the darkness.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Like, if it's just okay, there's always going to be some assholes. And yeah, sometimes I'm going to pronounce something wrong, or I'm going to use a terminology or an analogy that people think is stupid, or I'm going to have an opinion like, Jesus Christ, Legend of the Dragoon, or the Legend of the Dragoon, whatever it is. Yeah. I said it wrong. People are getting pissed about that. And then all I said was the most sad JRPG death, or the most famous, is Aerith's, but the most heart-wrenching for me is this forgotten PS1 RPG, Legend of the Dragoon, and then this guy Lavitz dies in the game. People that liked the game were furious that I referred to it as a forgotten PS1. Who the fuck forgot? It's one of the most talked about PS1 games ever. Like, fucking forgot, like, comments at like people losing their mind because I referred to it as forgotten. And I was like, look at the sales numbers. Look at the two, like, it's fucking forgotten. And I was like, why am I arguing with these people? Like, why?
Clock Tower, one of my favorite games, is a forgotten game. Regardless, it's a beautiful game, and I enjoy it, and I still enjoy it. Eternal Darkness, one of the best horror games of all time on the GameCube, forgotten.
People mix up. It's not forgotten to like the hardcore fans, but they don't realize that like not everyone is you. Yes, Eternal Darkness to you, legendary. It fucked with you, taking the memory card out, whatever the core, like the fourth wall breaking shit. It's legendary to guys to 40-year-old dudes that do nothing but try to make video game podcasts all day. Yeah, I'm a video game nerd. Yes, Eternal Darkness is fucking, but can you not realize that the rest of the world has no idea what the Legend of Dragoon is? Yeah. Nobody.
That's kind of your duty. All right. You don't know it, but it's your duty to be able to take these newer gamers to introduce them to something so beautiful, something that we cherish in our childhood or our teenager days or whatever. And you kind of like draw them like, hey, this is a awesome game, and emulation is a thing, so it's no excuse to not play it. Maybe if you can afford a PC, maybe you do have an excuse. But anyways, I'm trying to introduce this.
And even like most retro games, you don't need a monster rig to emulate NES games. Your freaking air fryer will, I mean, shit, a Raspberry Pi.
Sidekick phone.
Yeah. It's like there's yeah, I agree. And I do kind of feel like that's my angle. Again, talking back, I'm sort of brainstorming for you because you have the time right now and you already have a gaming following. Like, I think you underestimate how much progress you've made already. You have a pretty big collection, pretty good following. I haven't looked at your TikTok recently because you haven't been posting, but you have a bunch on TikTok. You have a bunch on Instagram. Like, you could not immediately, like, it's not going to replace a job right now. But if you are consistently putting out content, decided what your angle, and like I've changed my angle and kind of refined it over time, but you just stay consistent. And I'm not making it. I got offered a sponsorship. I got offered $800 to mention some crypto NFT project gaming thing. And I was like, I never got around to it. But like, maybe if I was put more effort into finding ways and sponsors, I could probably find a way to monetize the podcast. And I'm like 2.5, 3 years. And I guarantee you can find whatever job you're looking for, pay the bills, but I think you should like make content. I mean, I don't want to project onto you, but like you already have I'm just thinking on paper, you have a pretty big following. You already have a badass collection. You have the media, you have the tech knowledge with the computer. Like, you have basically all like the preliminary, like primordial soup elements that someone would need. It's not like you've never used a PC, you've never edited a video, you don't know what the fuck, like how to change a codec or this. Like, you have all that stuff. Stuff that people like want to make videos, they don't realize this giant barrier of entry. You already have all of that.
This is kid. He does setup reviews. He posts 3 times a day. He's been doing it for 2 years now, something like that, maybe a little bit under 2 years. 16 years old. He has 1 million followers on TikTok. He's getting sponsors, got his own place now.
There's tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people like that we don't even know about. But I think what translates is passionate. Like, I fucking love video games. It just is what it is. I think that translates. There's a reason I can do this because I'll have phases where I get burned out, but my entire life, I've never like completely burned out of video games. There's always sometimes like the fire and the lightning is more than others. But I've always loved it, and I can generally always talk about it. So it's like, if I'm going to make content, like, it has to be around like what you have genuine passion about. And then the analytical side is, okay, I'm going to make gaming content, but I don't want to just make gaming news because I'll never beat IGN. They're not going to do it better than IGN. They've been around forever. But okay, well, what am I into that's unique? Well, I like to fuck with emulators, and I do crazy shit with PS1 games, very very few people are doing. And it's super niche. Like it's very niche. Like a lot of the content I make, and again, I don't know if it's ever going to be like a job for me or if it could ever get there for you, but I just get a sense that like, I just feel like you should make the content. I don't know. Maybe call it Sixth Sense.
You're right. I think it's a premonition.
Maybe it's a premonition. And again, I'm projecting a little bit. I always say this to people recently, like the podcast is for me. It's not for you. It's not for the listeners. It's all for me.
I post a video and I look at it. I'm like, I enjoy doing it, but I know it's going to do bad. I know it's going to do poorly. And I post it and I'm right. And I know some videos that I made and I'm like, this is a banger. This is a banger. I'm not going to post it right away. I'm going to let that heat sizzle and I'm going to post it at the right time.
Yes.
And I know it's going to trend and it's going to do well. And it's done well. It's this weird thing of the reality check of like, all right, I had less fun making that video high quality with really badass edit than this poor ass one I just posted only got like 400 views versus the one that got like 2.1 million views.
I think you do both. I mean, like my best video is the easiest video I ever made. It's just a live reaction to the PS5 reveal. And I was genuinely pissed. I was like, this fucking sucks.
That video was awesome.
And
I watched it like 3 times.
Yeah, and it did well. It was easiest. But over time, I've been chipping away and my average views are going up. And I am kind of dialing down. Like at first, I was just drinking, playing games, recording everything, and then just trying to find like the couple of moments that I thought were funny where I might have said something funny. That did okay. Then I've transitioned to like now I get notes. I have like a formula. I say, behold, it's all my shtick about with the prophet, all that shit. I know it's going to be about 15 seconds. I write it out. I like edit the writing and I get it all dialed in. I look at the game, I research it, and then I shoot just the face. And then I capture the footage. I emulate it. I capture it in the best way I possibly can. It's a process, but I'm getting faster at it and the average views are going. And I'm honing in on like, what's that balance of what's a system I can put work in, but it actually works. It's still fun. And then when you have the ideas, every once in a while you have an idea that's super simple, like, fuck it, let's go for it. Maybe it's one of those freebies that gets 2 million, like you never know, shoot it. If it sucks, delete it.
There's too much shit going on my side. There's too much like the collectibles, the setups, then talking about video games. I need to find something just to focus on. Like, am I just talking about setups? Maybe that should be the product. That's the brand.
Yeah. I'd simplify it down. Like for me, again, I didn't know, like I'm learning as I go. I'm experimenting with content and kind of thinking about it. I'm on a new phase where it's like, I'm thinking of the word infotainment. It's like I'm giving information, but I'm doing
I heard that before.
I've heard it before. It's been around, I think, for a while. Like I've seen travel stuff on TikTok do well, but I'm just in general. And then I'm thinking, okay, the podcast is more long form. I can cut that up into, if I get off my lazy ass and do the video shit, I could like cut that up into like multiple highlights and keep promoting episodes long after that first week when they do well and like bring new people onto it. There's a way to stretch it all out. And I've been thinking more of like, how do I systematize this, get the most bang for the buck from the content I create? That's why I'm working on the YouTube. It's like all these short videos are coming from these longer playthroughs where I capture like all the bosses on the game or something. And then I'll put that on YouTube. That's like more long form content to get more deep heads, like some retro.
You get the triangle formula of recycling the content.
Yes. And it's not like all mapped out, but it's just, I just get the sense that you could do that too. And I also get the sense that if I mean, maybe I won't, maybe I'll give up, but I know that if I did this for 10 years straight at the rate I'm doing it now, it will be worth something, right?
I like how you're capturing like whoever you invite to your podcast. I don't know. I think I'm the exception. They're very interesting people. There's one that it was a recent podcast you had that I was listening to. She had a disability. And I kind of had a
Taze Double G.
Yeah, she's a badass, man. That girl, she'll kick my ass. But I thought that was very inspiring. I have a disability, and in my left hand, I was born with a birth defect, and then I've had a series of injuries, and that was something that was disheartening for me of getting to PC gaming because of the WAS. That was why I focused on consoles because of the controller, and then some controllers were different from others. The Dreamcast was a bitch. But that's my favorite controller. But it was a challenge within itself of using the controller to like playing Spawn and getting my ass kicked, but just continue the
There's a
grind.
Spawn game on Dreamcast?
Oh yes, yes, it is amazing.
What?
Yes, yes.
Is it a Dreamcast exclusive or is it on other stuff?
So there are Spawn games on the PS2 and I believe the PS1, but I believe this one is an exclusive.
The reason I bring that up, and I sorry to cut, you were talking about, I didn't mean to minimize your disability. Sorry.
No. I'm actually glad you did. But that's just like when you're talking about your, what was her name again? I'm sorry.
Taze Double G.
Taze, yeah, Taze. Yeah, that was very inspiring. I think that's your purpose.
But my point I was trying to say is like, it's just sort of, I'm playing it by ear going. I was trying, but I am trying to think every day, like, how can I make this better? 99% of the ideas fail, but every once in a while, I actually legitimately improve it permanently.
Yeah, that banger.
Or even my system.
I personally enjoy all your content. I think you're on a different level right now.
Well, to be honest with you, it's not working numbers wise.
It's going to work. I mean,
the ultimate reality check is, does it work or not? It's not really working. At least on Instagram, it's not working.
Instagram and TikTok, it's something with the algorithm. It's so competitive.
TikTok is better. I've definitely made, but Instagram's brutal, dude. I started them at the same time. Instagram has 600 followers. TikTok has 20,000. But dude, it's 2 years, 600. Now, the other thing I don't do with Instagram is I don't follow and unfollow. I don't like interact. A lot of people I don't comment. I get in there because in my mind, it's like I should be able to just post good content and it should work.
I have 700 real ones that I follow that have been following me from 4 years when I started the whole thing. Everyone else that comes on, they follow me, they'll interact. And then a month later, I get a notification that you got unfollowed. And I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I didn't follow you because you're about that for follow bullshit. I'm not about that. I'm about all right, this guy engaged with my post a few times and I checking out his stuff. I'm digging his stuff. I'm having I'm now have a relationship with this person. All right, I'm going to follow this guy and I'm actually going to stick with this shit. Not someone who's here for the short game.
If you can follow me and you engage with my stuff, I will check you out.
Yeah. Yeah. When I get a chance.
If your shit's dope, then it's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah. That just is what it is. And so my hope is that if I make dope shit, it'll eventually, but it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's this combination of algorithm and also I do think if you really reach a level of refinement and you are making undeniably good content, it should catch at some point.
It's going to, especially TikTok. It's like Russian roulette, man.
It does sometimes, but I think you could, in your situation, it's you could start planting those seeds, creating gaming content. I know you're passionate about gaming. I don't think I know you can go through depressive spells. We all do. I've had some long-winded ones where no game is interesting. And you already have it. You already have lots of progress online. Think of it as I don't know, maybe down the road, this will be my ticket to freedom, or maybe it'll just be a really rewarding thing that grows and becomes a community that I just feel like you should do it. And I keep saying it. I don't know how else to say it.
I hope a year later I'm watching or listening to this podcast. I'm doing a lot better than I'm doing now. I'm like, man, I was in a bad spot right there. And now look, the man himself got me back into it.
I don't know. I'm projecting. I do it obsessively because it's how I manage my mind.
Yeah.
So it's working for me.
It's been a thought. I get, that's the thing. I'm a thinker. I'm always thinking. I'm driving or whatever. I'm trying to plan shit in my head. How am I going to accomplish whatever? And lately, I've been having less time doing that. I've been more focused. My daughter listens to Baby Shark in the back while we're driving. I can't grasp any thoughts I have in my head.
What is it with that goddamn song that every kid why?
And she's into sharks now, so we got something out of it. My daughter is into some badass sharks, but that song is so fucking depressing.
I don't get it. Sometimes I look at little kids stuff. That's another. Speaking of media, if I were to do it all over again, I think I would make little kids content.
You should, and we should partner up. Because
I look at the shit my kids. I eventually just took YouTube off of Roku because I was just I'm not around enough, watching it enough. I don't feel comfortable letting this algorithm raise my child. Yeah. But some of the stuff they watch is adults that are making kids content. It's a little weird, but I get what they're doing. They're just not very good. But obviously they're good at it because my kids love it. But I watch it and I'm like, That's easier than what I'm doing.
I was actually thinking about doing. This is so stupid. Maybe it's not. Maybe so stupid is great. I was thinking about doing retro gaming, but making it family friendly. And for me to do that, it'd be extremely difficult. I'll have to like put a legitimate filter in my mouth.
You're the dude. The most gnarliest shit I've seen is that VR game you play stabbing people through the face and shit. Oh, all your comments, people were losing their mind. I
almost got canceled over that. I think I told you that last podcast.
You got canceled?
I was going through it. It's a couple people reacted to what we call duetted. Some woke ass people, like they were generally upset that I made that video because I was stabbing a female. So they thought listen. I'm a feminist, man. I'm all about women's rights and I actually was like taken back. I'm like, wait. What do you think? There was guys in there just in this particular moment of me stabbing this. There was a female. Like it would be bad if I was not including stabbing females. So that would be the problem. But I'm stabbing guys. This game, if you don't know what that.
What is the game for reference? By the way,
it's called Blade and Sorcery, and it's a VR game, and it's basically like Gladiator style. You got your weapons, and you're just like fighting in this Coliseum. It's pretty brutal. It's very gory.
It's brutal. I mean, it is Gladiator, the game. It's brutal.
Yeah. So there was another video that got 3 million views. It was very similar to that one. And that actually got removed from TikTok. And I tried to battle that one out. Like, hey, listen, that one did fairly well. And that one didn't get approved. That second video, the one that you watched, that actually was being like investigated and somehow came back to life. I had a third one. That one got removed. I was like, all right, apparently I can't do this kind of content. The content that I enjoy, I can't do that. Meanwhile, I'm scrolling through the For You page and I'm seeing some gore shit. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I've had a few. Like that is a good point when you're thinking about the content you make. Like you got to be careful. Like I've seen stuff that's worse. So it's like, I don't know how you play the algorithm. I had one video where I just said the word Nazi. You just can't say that word. I didn't know, but it was like gone immediately, got taken down. Like it was algorithm. No one reported. It was just like, see ya, you said Nazi.
Yeah.
But it was in reference to an action figure that my guest was complaining that there's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Raphael action figure where they dressed. Oh, Bebop. I think it was Bebop.
Bebop. I had that figure. I know exactly what you're talking about.
He looks like he's a Nazi.
Yo, he does. I'm pretty sure he was a Nazi. I missed it.
I'm talking about Turtles figurines, but I guess I said Nazi. I've had a few. I did a Manhunt 2, the uncensored PC version.
Yeah.
Didn't get taken down. It was pretty violent. I mean, it's pretty gnarly.
Wasn't that like blocked from like every country?
Every country. I mean, you have to mod it on PC to see how the game was originally. I think there was a re-release later. I'm sure the real video game historians are losing their mind, but I had to mod it on PC to get it uncensored. I had to download like a mod and install it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like an old version or what, but.
So what do you think? Your honest opinion. Did you enjoy that video?
Your video of Blade and Sorcery?
Yeah.
I was laughing my ass off. That's why I went to the comments. I also kind of knew the comments were going to be a dumpster fire when I saw the video. So I was like, yeah, let's go check this out.
It's funny. When I posted that was the first one I posted before the other one. I was like, I know I'm going to get some heat from this. I wanted to watch the world burn. I was enjoying the comment. I even liked the bad ones. I was like, yeah, fuck you.
You could make a backup, like a Retro Revi 2, where you post your like more risky stuff.
Oh, I got so much content. I have an external hard drive, like 10 terabytes full of content.
That's why, like, I don't know. You got to make content, man. Especially if you're doing stay-at-home dad right now, like if you do it consistently, it will be worth it. I don't know what worth it will mean in the end, but whether that means money, whether that means community, or whether that means just emotional, like regulation, that's what I get out of it.
I was thinking about doing Retro Revi rewinds. Has a good ring to it.
Ooh, the triple R.
Yeah.
Alliteration.
Yeah. That'd be pretty cool.
Everyone listening, go follow Retro Revi and message him and say, make content, bitch. Start making some content. They'll come back. You have they'll come back. And I think, I don't know, if I was you, and I got to really think about it. If I was you, like, I do think you're right. You got to narrow it down and like, what's your stick? And you could change sticks over time because no one wants to see the same thing forever. You could do a series of, I guess you already did game room setups. You probably already talked about how your game, I've seen those.
Yeah, it's like beating a horse. I think I just need to go back into the OG stuff. Let's talk about some video games, some stuff that I actually enjoy talking about.
Just play video games or talk about video games. Just talk about shit that you really genuinely are passionate about.
Yeah.
It'll come across.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. You're fucking right, man. All right, you convinced me. I thought I was unconvincible. I want to make different accounts for different shit. One's gonna be toys, one's gonna be video games, and then setups. So do you enjoy this? You can watch this.
Or you just do them all in one.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. That's not good.
I mean, really, the thing is just to execute. I would say do it all in one, or maybe if like one really is sticky, like say the toys for whatever reason, it's just the best. Then just commit. I'm just going to turn this into a toys account, and I can go make a second one for video games. I would say though for like TikTok, because again, you want to like funnel people to like an ecosystem of your content. You can mention I have a second TikTok or Instagram where I post. You can even be honest about it. Like if you want family friendly content, if you want more games that are not family friendly, I have a channel for that. I have a TikTok for that.
I like that. You should be a consultant.
Maybe. I think if you knew the story of my entire life, you would not. You would, whatever. I mean, like
you'd be surprised. You're not talking to an angel here.
What do you mean?
I'm more understandable because I had some experiences in life that
okay.
I can't judge.
I grew up in a really high demand religion. Once I was like, hey, man, I think this is all bullshit. It was a long process, but from like 18 to 29, 30, I was crazy. I just did not have shit for shat figured out. So just a lot of wild shit happened. I had a lot of good times, but I did like so many. Luckily, not just lots of dumb shit. Lots of things like, I'm embarrassed about, and I don't know. I don't even know why. Why are you getting me to talk about this shit? You motherfucker.
I'm sorry, man. You remind me of this. We used to call him the Viking. The game store I used to work at. Everybody loved me, and I loved them. It was a neutral like understanding. But the Viking, this guy used to come up. I can't remember his real name. He was like going through it, like really going through it. He was like doing everything you can think of. This dude was wow. He used to bring me in food, and I like, awesome, man. I'm glad you brought me this food, but I would never eat it. Like, and I love this guy because I
don't know where that shit's been.
I honestly, it was like, I love this guy. I used to hug him. Smelled. Not saying that you smelled. You could smell him. You could smell whatever he did in the parking lot.
You could smell whatever the Rock was cooking.
Yeah. I know what crack smells like. You smell like crack. He was badass. I loved him. He was a drug addict. He's actually clean. Last time I saw him 3 years ago, he's completely clean. But this dude went through it, and he knew his shit he knew 10 times more about video games than I would ever. He was about like 5, 6 years, a little bit older than me. And he had a big ass Viking beard. He had long hair and like dreads. Yeah, dreads. White guy. And sweetest guy in the world, but he was like, he reminded me of you. He's like, man, you just don't know. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I just don't know the shit. I'm like a goody two shoe compared to you, but I've been brought up in some shit that, I get it. I understand what you're talking about. My oldest brother was a drug addict for like most of his life and was going through prison. I get it. I don't understand. I understand what you're going through, but I haven't been in your shoes. So if people talk to me, I'm like,
there's a level of understanding you can have. It's like you haven't done the exact thing, but you can still relate. And that's the best thing I think people can do, because you're never going to like truly know exactly what it's like to be somebody else.
Yeah.
But again, that's, I think, why our conversation has not been about video games. We had this long conversation, for those who are still listening, about his situation before the podcast started. And we were talking about, we went like really deep, like old school homies, really quick before we started even recording. That's why it's turned into this. But I was just like, you put me in this headspace, like, okay, like, because I was in your situation where it was like, I had failed at music. I had failed at the record label. I had kind of did okay at sales through college. But then the last 2 summers, I lost more money than I made the last 2 times I went out and did sales, like 31 or 32, like almost the same age, actually. And I was like, all I have is like, I tried to be a rock star and failed. Like,
you're a rock star in my eyes, man.
And awesome. I was like, I do. And I just started like trying shit and got a job. Like, again, I think you're probably in a good spot. Cause I do you. Oh, that's what I was trying to remember. You distracted me. I'm going to look this motherfucker. Let's look him up on TikTok. 66,000. You little son of a bitch. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I should do pod. Like, dude, Do you know how many people are busting their ass off to try to get to that already? They're not even like me. I've been busting my ass off. You're at 66,000. No, you're not quitting. You're going to continue to make content, you little shit. And like eventually at some point, it's going to provide you opportunities that will probably turn into a way to make money. Whether it's enough to be, whatever.
I want to make bank, bro.
Well, yeah.
Step Brothers reference.
I haven't seen that. I actually haven't seen that movie. And you're going to freak everyone. I know. I apologize to everyone listening. I get it. It's my fault. There's no excuse. I should have. I know there's a ball sack.
Vanilla
on a drum.
Sky, Eternal Sunshine, Spotless Mind.
I've seen Eternal Sunshine. Sunshine. Yes.
Did you like it? You enjoyed it?
No, but I think the reason I didn't enjoy it is because the people that loved that movie, I associated with them, and I'm not a fan of them. Okay. So when I think of that movie, I think of like these group of people that I'm just judgmental against. So I don't think, if I'm honest with you, I remember, isn't it like time travel based or like their perception of time, like their relationship, or they're going through like different lives or some shit?
They're wiping the memory. So he wiped his girlfriend's memory, and she was acting weird. They're going through a breakup, and then he ended up doing the same thing. But during the process of getting his memory wiped, he was trying to collect his memories, realizing that he doesn't want to get rid of this shit.
It's a good movie. I know it's good. I associate two people that I just don't like with that movie. So I am biased, is what I'm trying to say. I'm biased against.
Well, you don't know anybody that has watched Vanilla Sky, so you got to watch that.
Yeah. And in fact, all I can think of Vanilla Sky is Tom Cruise looking hot as shit on the cover.
Sexy, no homo, but homo. Yeah.
But yeah, Step Brothers. Anyway, you like 66,000. So go follow him. Retro Revi, Revi, 66,000 on TikTok. And let's look up your Instagram. Shout out to Retro Afternoons. He's been hustling, making really good content, and algorithm has not been kind to him either. Why am I not following you on Instagram? I'm an asshole.
I'm following you. You're following me. Right here.
It said I wasn't following. And now you got 5,542.
Yeah.
I'm following you on TikTok, but not Instagram. I don't know why that happened. Again, 5,000 on Instagram, which is really hard. Instagram is brutal. And then 66,000 on TikTok. Do you have YouTube?
Yeah, I have YouTube, but the content on there is not so great. I'm actually if I'm going to go back at this, I'm going to wipe it clean and go back. I'm going to find my niche.
Find your niche. I think you should commit to at least being a consistent hobby.
Yeah.
At the very least. Consistency is more important than going balls to the wall because you'll burn out.
I was thinking about going back into streaming again. That's like a big thought of mine, returning back to Twitch.
I'm biased against it.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about even changing platforms to go on the YouTube. I just don't know. I have 2,000 followers on Twitch.
Dude, that's a lot.
Badass friends I met on there. That's kind of like the thing. Like maybe I should go back there for a week and be like, hey, remember me? How you guys been? I'm going to YouTube and trying to grab my old community. That's is all about, man. Like TikTok, there's a couple of guys that I met on there. Like out of 66,000, it's more of like the same people who keep on coming back to say, I know them, from like when I started this whole thing, and pushing them to Instagram. Once they came over, I'm like, well, I don't really need TikTok anymore. I'm more about those group of people who actually engage in my content that I enjoy, looking forward to hear their feedback.
Dude, your average views are pretty consistent. There are content creator out there that are literally dreaming of being where you're at right now.
I feel bad.
So just don't forget that. There's people out there that literally their goal is to get to where you are right now.
Damn.
That's where I'm at.
I feel shitty.
Don't feel shitty. It's just saying dude, you should be emboldened, confident, wait, I actually can do it. The evidence is I've already done it.
I remember when TikTok was becoming a thing. And I was working marketing, and this guy, William Beam, he's a insane photographer. This kid has traveled the world. He's a kid. He's like 22 or something like that. He does social media when I was working with him. And he was telling me you should go to TikTok. And I'm like, Tik who? He's like, TikTok. It's like Vine. I'm like, oh, I remember Vine. Vine was badass. He goes, yeah, it's like Vine. And I'm like, yeah, well, I don't know. I can't dance. And he's like, well, that's the thing. You don't have to dance. You can do whatever. And I'm like, whatever. So I can talk about video games. And then he's like, well, yeah, if that's your thing. He says, I don't recall bumping into anybody that does like video games. I'm like, video games. So I'm going through the hashtags, looking Nintendo, looking up Sega, looking up the OG stuff. Nothing was popping up. Nothing. A couple things with game rooms, and I'm like, am I jumping into a platform where it's fresh with no
Yes, you were
fingerprint?
You
gaming?
still are. You still are.
Technically, but now it's becoming more. It's a trend. It's huge. It's a trending platform. It is a lot harder. Especially, I think it's more difficult for me to jump in now with that 66,000 to try to get the algorithm to build up. Is actually be easier for me to go ahead and clean slate and create a new page and go ahead and just.
Well, what you should do is you should make like 2 other accounts where you just do the more gore shit.
Yeah,
because like that's good. Like I just did a video on like this PC game Succubus. It's like the sequel to Agony.
Dude, Succubus, the fucking game is awesome.
The game, it's a little janky, but overall it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's another one called something Lust. One of the very similar.
Like did really, really well, and I specifically was very careful about what I said and what shots and how I edited it. It's like I want people to like get it, like how because the game is dude. The game. I can say this hopefully, like on podcast should be a big. When you first do the first torture mechanic and you knock the baby out of the pregnant lady and then beat her to death with the baby,
can't post that.
Holy shit! Yeah, we're not posting that. I was like,
if you find a way to post that, that thing would get like 10 million views,
dude. Yeah. But at the expense of your account getting shut down. See ya. But that's what in the video I was like, there's some shit in this game that I literally can't even describe. But like this game is intense.
One sec, I got a game for you. I'm not sure if you've played it. Lust from Beyond.
That sounds like it's gonna be.
Oh my god.
Let's check this out.
Are you on Steam right now?
I'm watching the trailer on YouTube.
Oh god.
Oh my god.
Can you post it on YouTube?
I mean, I'm sure the trailer's been edited. Okay, so it's a first-person shooter that the sections that look like sort of like gore, agony, succubus kind of like, but then there's also like insane asylum, red rooms, religious, like cult stuff, drinking from a chalice. It's got everything. Then it's got like alien space world caves and like weird creatures, but then like a mansion, a red room, Lovecraftian for sure. Definitely like a bunch of, Lovecraftian and guy, like Alien, literally the franchise. What's his name? R.H. Ginger is his name. The guy that's behind
GIGR. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like that style in this. Is this out?
Yes. Yeah, it came out in March 11th, 2021. Actually came out.
I'm going to do a video on this shit for sure.
Yes.
Now, how does it play though?
I haven't played it. I only watched people play it.
Okay.
Yeah. And I had to watch them through Steam. I couldn't even watch them like play it on Twitch because I'm sure that's like a block game.
There's no way. But I'm so anal about like video quality, and because I have this nice video card. Well, I want to know a dirty secret. I'll just be a dirty secret sometimes because I don't want to like pull footage from somewhere else, YouTube, because it's like compressed and you download it, it's shitty. As long as you don't play over 2 hours of a game, you can refund it on Steam. And so a lot of times I'll play it and I'll get as much footage as I can in like an hour and a half, try to get as far as I can because I want to do a video on it, but I don't necessarily want to like play the whole game or play.
You can return a game on Steam?
Yeah, any game, as long as you don't play over 2 hours.
No way.
As long as your playtime is like within 48 hours and under 2 hours of total playtime, you just request a refund and they'll refund your card.
Oh, okay. Well, I can return this shitty mummy game that was like supposed to be similar to Phasmophobia. It was just complete trash.
Everyone's talking about that game still. Phasmophobia.
I played that game on release. I knew it was a banger. I played it. I was like, this is a banger.
Yeah.
This game to do so well.
Yeah.
You haven't played it.
I haven't played it. No, everyone keeps talking about it, but I don't do. So I do not do multiplayer online. I just don't. Yeah. I think I play Smash Brothers. I'll fuck some people up in Smash Brothers, but that's like usually local, like you're hanging out. And I got really into Halo 1. I was pretty good at Halo 1. I don't know why. Like, again, because when I sit down to play a game, 99.9% of the time, I'm also trying to make content. And so there's like an agenda. I want to talk about this game. I've researched it. I've wrote something with it. I want to capture the footage. I want to get the best footage possible. So like there's always like a purpose. And I've been focusing on so many retro, like actual retro games, but I've been having more success focusing about modern games that are indie. So I'm kind of morphing into like retro and indie games. Plus, I think indie developers deserve someone trying to amplify. Like it's so hard.
I'm glad to see influencers like cover indie shit. They put so much their own money into it and their own like their time. Yeah, they definitely deserve it. There's some really good indie games, man.
And I think people want to see it. Like Succubus is like it's a niche indie game. I mean, it's decent budget. A bunch of people, they're real talent from other studios, but it's still in comparison an indie game. It's not a super small indie game. And it did really, really well. I posted about this one called Anno Mutations. It's the demo or Anno Mutagens, I think. It's on Steam. There's a demo. It's like this 2D pixel. It's like this mix of 3D and pixel graphics. And it's like a Metroidvania and also an RPG. It's fucking everything I love in a game. Just type in ANNO and it should come up like Anno Mutagens or Anno Mutations.
How do you even pronounce that? Mutationum?
Mutationin? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's another one people got mad at me for pronouncing wrong on the video.
Has that cyberpunk look?
It's like cyberpunk. Did you ever see a preview for a game that never came out called The Long Night or The Night Before? But it ended up being vaporware. The Last Night, 4 years ago. Look that up. It's basically this game never came out, but had the coolest style ever. Anno Mutations is actually coming out. There's a demo, and it's like a similar style.
Oh, that's beautiful. It reminds me of BioShock for some weird reason.
Yeah. So this game, The Last Night, look, if you're listening, look it up. It's one of the most saddest disappoint. Like I was so amped for this game, and it just ended up falling apart and never happening. But I've always wanted a game that could combine like this 2D pixel and 3D depth of field and layers and like 3D effects. And anyway, no one's really done it except this game, Anno Mutagens. There's a demo. The demo plays is short, but it plays really good. I'm pretty sure the game's going to come out. I think the game's actually going to get finished. I'm super stoked on that game. That video did well too. And like, I think it's an incredibly small team doing that game. I would assume. Seems like a pretty small game.
Developer Odd Tales. Let's see what else they worked on. Nothing. Have they made anything else other than this?
I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of. You could do that too, dude. You could talk about indie game, and there's a huge market for the shit. Talk about Spawn. By the way, I did not forget about Spawn on Dreamcast. You were chatting, and I watched some videos. I need to play this game.
Amazing.
I love Spawn. They keep saying they're going to make a new Spawn, and it just never happens.
Yeah, they'll let us down.
Well, guys, we talked about some video games and some gaming memories. We did talk about games. I think people like it. Here's why I'm not too worried about it. When I had Garrett on, we were actually doing the audio call on Discord, and I don't since I don't really use my Discord, I don't police it. There's no anyone can join the chat. I didn't realize that people had joined the Discord chat and were just listening. We were just using it to record, to talk to each other. And after the podcast ended, we got into it. Josh from Still Loading Podcasts, who's a badass. Josh is like really religious, like Christian. And I grew up in like a high demand Christian church, and I'm like pretty anti-religion, and Garrett was in the middle. We ended up talking about religion and spirituality for like hours. And I found out later that people were listening and messaging me, and they loved it. So I have a suspicion that maybe this podcast people will like, even though we didn't talk about games that much. We're going to find out. We are going to find out.
Love you, man. I appreciate it.
Retro Revi. I also talked way more than normal, but you got me going. I didn't mean to normally it's about the guest, but maybe I needed the data dump on someone, and you just got it out of me. So
I had a good time. This is awesome.
Yeah.
It was chill.
Go check his shit out. Tell him to make content. He's already done really well. What's your, is it Retro Revi the same across the board? Twitter?
Across the board, yep.
Across the board, Retro Revi. That's good. Mine's not. Smart man.
Yep. I'm on every platform, OnlyFans.
I had an idea. What if you made an OnlyFans? I've been thinking about this for a while, where it was for women, but it wasn't actually porn. It was emotional porn.
Yeah.
So it was
gonna
like
be
they
a
could
thing.
watch videos of like, babe, tell me about your day. And like, it's just as a joke. But the more I thought about it, like, not only would it be funny, I think if you could actually make women feel like emotionally heard, it would work.
It would.
I think it would work.
I think it would. You make some serious dough.
I think you could.
I'll be a pimp.
Sweet dude, I appreciate it. Retro Revi everywhere. Anything else, man?
No, that's it, man. You guys know everything about me.
Kind of. I get
everything but my address.
Everything
That's
but your
easy to
address
find.
or the games that you actually played growing up, which is the whole point of the podcast.
We're gonna have to do round 3 now.
We will, dude. Anytime.
It's weird because on my side it shows that we're friends.
Oh, well, I just followed you. Did you get a notification?
No, I didn't even get a notification.
What?
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, I'm logged into a different Instagram.
Oh my god.
Big brain shit over here. Big brain shit over
We
here.
have some mutuals. That's awesome.
I just followed you from my music account. Yeah, that's right. For some reason, I can't log into my Instagram account on my phone anymore. It just says I can't log you in.
Blocked.
But I can log into it on my desktop. Like I'm logged into it right now because I messaged you. I'm sure I'll figure it out. But
that's awesome.
What are we talking about? Now
everything other than gaming.
Everything.
That's my fault. That's 110. Listen, I'm sorry, guys.
It's
Look
fine.